Hi, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dunker Spot, part of the Basketball News Podcast Network. I am your host, Nekias Duncan, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Steve Jones Jr. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well, doing great. Good day to all. Happy to salute all you dunkers out there. It's been a hot minute, but we're here. I don't want to say we're back because I feel like that's cliche. It's the off season, man. Just gotta get it in. But the hashtag is big time, folks. Thank you for embracing your bounce. We are blessed and a pleasure for me to be here with the professor, Nekias Duncan, fresh off a big time summer league excursion. And if you don't believe me, let's ask him how long was he there?
Okay, so I was there for 4 days. It's
4 days. The first four?
The first four.
Exclusive. Get in,
Is
show your face, make your presence known, shake some hands, kiss some babies, get out of there. That, folks, is the big time summer league experience, and Nekias has graduated, whether he wants to believe it or not. I believe 3 years ago, you were there for 28 days.
Okay, that definitely isn't true. Oh man, no. First trip to Vegas was 2018. I think that was a 3-day thing. Second trip 2019, which is the year that we met. That was a week-long experience. I don't know why I did that in hindsight, but that was a that was a week-long experience. Just 4 days this time. I wanted to catch the first 4 days. Like, why? I mean, I care about Summer League more than most people do, which is probably a character flaw for me. But if I'm going to be in Vegas, I'm going to watch Summer League hoops. I want to see like the people that I want to see. Like, I want to see the key rookies. And like after the first 3 or 4 days, like teams start holding out guys. They want to showcase the guys they're thinking about with two ways and stuff. And not that they're not important, but like, if I want to catch Jalen Johnson, for an example, it would behoove me to be there early rather than later once they get into like the tournament and all this different stuff when they start holding out people. But yeah, don't think I'm big time. I did have the opportunity to co-teach a class with Alex Kennedy at a sports business classroom, going over some media stuff, going over our paths and such, and giving advice and all that good stuff. Had a blast. Ended up getting some custom-made socks. Shout out to my guy John at Gen Z Hoops. Very cool experience. Yeah, we got custom socks. It was great.
I thought that was a rumor. So you have socks with your face on them.
I do in fact have socks with my face on them, but
and the hashtag is not big time.
The hashtag is not big time. The hashtag is big thankful for
my socks got a swoosh on them. 2 of them.
So the hashtag is big brand. I'll just say, tell me if I'm wrong. That sounds pretty official to me.
No, it just sounds like you're a veteran now, and you now know not to subject yourself to an entire summer league. And as much as I love summer league, which by the way, salute to the league. You had Thomas and Mack and Cox Pavilion packed. Every game available to watch. That's
with the mask.
So that's awesome to see. I'm glad people were able to enjoy the game of basketball. I'm glad you were able to grace the streets. Sources inside both buildings let me know some of your antics.
Some of my antics. Shortly.
Yeah, some of the autographs, some of the picture taking.
Okay.
Shaking hands, kissing babies, some of those things. Walking straight ahead past people with a polo on. It's fine.
Is this what we're on tonight?
No, I'm just loosening the mood. Let's have some fun, man. It's been like 2 weeks. I haven't had any chance to release these jokes.
Oh, this is going to be a legendary pod. I see. Well, first, we'll start with some news. The NBA did release both their opening night schedule and also the Christmas Day schedule. For opening night, we're getting Nets Bucks to kick things off, and then we're getting Warriors Lakers after that. And those are the first TNT games of the season. And then the day after, ESPN has their doubleheader. They're starting with Celtics Knicks and then going with Nuggets Suns. How do you feel about those slated games?
Well, I mean, opening night, TNT, that doubleheader is a no-brainer to me. If you're gonna get the Bucks in there, get the championship ceremony, you pair them with the Nets, and poof, magic. And then you follow that up with LeBron and Steph Curry, and which is one of the easier sells in the world to both people who love basketball and maybe are just, can I even say the word casual?
Sure, we'll allow it.
Yeah. So I mean that's a win-win. The ESPN one surprised me a little bit, but it also told me a little bit of the story of what we're going to see. And that means the Knicks are now an anchor, TV wise. They're back. So if you're if you're not into New York Knicks basketball, this ain't the year for you national wise. Well, I mean, the league's been looking for kind of a team to anchor that early doubleheader slot ever since LeBron left. And if you don't believe me, look at how many Houston home games were in that early slot before Houston fell apart. Um, but yeah, the Knicks clearly are going to get the nod. And it's interesting. The Celtics seem to keep being relied on. I don't know if it's name value, brand value, Jason Tatum, but it's interesting to see them get that nod. It feels like they're kind of we're neck and neck with the Sixers in a sense, and they've just gotten the nod. Just like, hey, they're just gonna go to the Celtics. It's fine. The second one is interesting. Uh, the Suns getting that game. I think that speaks a lot to the equity they built making that finals run. And I also wonder how much it speaks to some of the quote unquote anchors maybe not being there West Coast wise, if that makes sense. Not that the West is down, but that might have been a Clipper game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's no Kawhi, so it doesn't make the same sense to put them in there. I don't know if you throw the Jazz out there opening night. As good as they are, I don't know who they draw in that sense. So you give the Suns a respect, and then you put Jokic on there. You get the MVP some love. You should throw them out there, get a little playoff rematch. So I thought that was interesting. They went those two teams for the second slot. How did you feel about the first two nights?
The first night I totally got, like I echo your sentiments on Nets, Bucks, and Warriors, Lakers. Like there's plenty of star power there. Bucks ring ceremony, you get Cade versus Giannis right off rip. And now that I'm looking at it as a video game head, all four of the 96 overalls in 2K22 are playing in the TNT slate. So that's pretty cool between LeBron, Steph, Cade, and Giannis. Interesting coincidence there. The ESPN slate doesn't really, I'm not going to say it doesn't do it for me because like I enjoy all four of those teams to varying levels. But like Celtics Knicks to kick things off just seems like it's going to be I feel like it's going to be like a low scoring defensive heavy game, which I can rock with. I just don't know what the draw is going to be. Maybe get them in the door, but I don't know what.
The Garden.
That's all it needed. Oh, by the way, on the Knicks point, like they're getting 20 national games minimum, right?
Absolutely. I think they're going to be an anchor. I think the Hawks are going to get a lot of love thanks to Trae Young's emergence. I think those two are going to probably get a lot more games than we had expected. I'm surprised. I'm interested to see what they do with Philadelphia because I feel like Philadelphia is good, but they also are like, we don't know what y'all are about to do.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'm glad you brought up the Philly Boston thing because like it was surprising to me, and we're going to get into the Christmas thing very shortly. But it is surprising to me that Boston's getting this kind of love. Like I think it is a testament to Jason Tatum because his star rose quite a bit last year, even with him dealing with COVID, still had one heck of a year. Like he's very much on the cusp of being a top 10 guy. So I think it is smart to kind of invest in him this year, bank on the leap, like he's coming off the Olympic gold and everything. So that makes sense. But yeah, like just from, I hate even getting into this kind of talk, but I guess just from like a entertainment / marketing standpoint, you would think like Embiid would be the bigger star in that sense than Jason Tatum is. And like even with the Ben Simmons thing kind of lingering, if nothing else, that's a talking point for the broadcast if nothing happens. Or if it does, then it's, hey, player X now has to fit with Joel Embiid. What is Philly going to do this year? And so just Embiid's like his game, the post game, the power that he comes with, the personality that he plays with. Like, it just seems like he would be more of an opening night guy than Jason Tatum is, not to speak to either of the, like saying one player is better than the other, just from a television standpoint. So that kind of surprised me. The Knicks are just going to be on TV a bunch. Like that just kind of is what it is. Nuggets Suns kind of confused me because
I'm confused by your confusion. I thought this was a handmade Nekias Duncan picked matchup.
Oh, like I'm glad that both teams are getting love. I'm also just kind of like, we saw what the Suns just did to the Nuggets. And so I'm kind of worried about what that game's going to look like. And like, it's also interesting that Denver gets the end. We can just flow into the Christmas stuff right after this. Like, the Nuggets get this game to kind of kick off the ESPN slate. Not even kick off the ESPN slate. They get the late game. They'll showcase Jokic for this game, but not Christmas, which is odd to me, to say the least.
Are you one of those Jokic got snubbed guys?
I am absolutely a Jokic got snubbed guy. And I will say this off rip, like, I'm sure Jokic does not care at all. I think he is fine with spending Christmas with his family if he celebrates it. Like, I don't think it's not a Jokic point. It's more like, this dude is really freaking good and y'all don't really market him well to begin with on the national scale. And he just won MVP and a playoff round. And you don't have him on the Christmas slate. Why exactly?
Well, I guess I will play devil's advocate here. And we'll start there on our Christmas breakdown, which I know all the dunkers came for. Thank you for embracing your bounce. The Christmas Day schedule is pretty laid out. There's a handful of teams that can make it, and there's only a handful of slots for certain teams. First two games have to be East Coast teams, just because of the timing. They have to be East Coast teams. And if the Knicks are good, you can go ahead and pencil them in to open it up. Just go ahead and put it in pen, almost Sharpie if they're good. And then that last slot has seemingly been like Northwest Division team versus star. You know what I mean? Whether it's like Zion or Kawhi, whoever it is. But Denver, I think, was there 2 years in a row. I think if Jamal Murray's healthy, they probably get that slot over Denver. I think from a league perspective or a TV perspective, it's probably easier to sell, hey, this is the MVP on the first game of the season rather than on Christmas where you're not sure what that team could be. Not that I think they'll be bad or anything like that, but you got to protect that slate of games as much as you can to where, hey, as long as this person is healthy, we can market this. So I think they went with, hey, we got Luka, and Utah's going to be Utah. So there we go. We know what the Jazz can do. Let's go ahead and give them some. There it is. If Portland was better, might have been Dame. But they're the same thing. It's the unknown. We don't want to put 8-20 on the Christmas Day slate. Not that the Nuggets would be that way, but you got to protect, hey, this is Utah. They were the number one seed. This is Luka Doncic. You know what I mean? It's bulletproof, quote unquote.
Okay, so I 100% understand where you're coming from. There's a very logical and sound point, and there are logical and sound points that you just made. Here are my two things about that, right? One, if we're making if this guy's healthy, we can market this. Nikola Jokic just one of the poster boys for that because he just doesn't get hurt. And if he's on the floor, Denver's good. Like, that has just been the case throughout his entire career. So there's one. Two, from the NBA side, I really don't even want to hear we don't want this team to be bad on Christmas when we've gotten the Knicks, we've gotten bad Knicks on Christmas, which, again, different time slot to your point, but we've gotten bad Knicks on Christmas. We are fresh off of Zion and the Pelicans.
But
getting
Zion, selling point.
Maybe the MVP should be a selling point, and maybe you should invest resources into making him a selling point since he's your literal MVP.
Well, yeah. I'm not going to disagree with that, but it's probably a lot. It's the nightcap. So, I mean, I'm not mad at Utah making
it. I'm also not mad. Like, from a pure basketball standpoint, like, Mavericks Jazz is something I can get up for. Like, I enjoy watching Utah play. Like, it's not even disrespect to Utah, or it's not intended to be disrespect to Utah. I'll put it that way. I'm sure Utah fans are going to take it as disrespect either way. But it's just weird having a Christmas Day slate without the MVP. And it's not even like, it'd be one thing if Jokic was boring. And it's like, okay, let's just shush, put him away. Like, this is a dude that can mash dudes in the block. This is a guy that can shoot. This is a guy that sling passes all across the lot. Like, he actively does things that wow you if you watch him. And part of the reason why Jokic isn't more popular is because a lot of people can't see him. Some of that is the Denver TV stuff, which I don't even care to get into right now. Listen to a Denver Nuggets-based podcast to get more information on that. And part of that is Denver not getting more of the national audience, more of the national slates. This is a unique opportunity to do so because, hey, the guy that you haven't really marketed that well just won MVP. Not only has he continued to be good, he literally just won your premier individual award. So, like, and if you care enough about him to have him on the opening ESPN slate, the late game at that, why not give him the late game on the ESPN slate on Christmas when you are highlighting a bunch of your star power? Like, I don't. And what was the stat from StatMuse? What was the tweet from StatMuse that Jokic is the first MVP to not be on Christmas since 2008? Like, you can't do that.
So you're saying the Utah Jazz should not be on Christmas Day?
I think I would be more interested in Luka versus Jokic than I would be this Utah Mavericks matchup. That is not to say Utah is not good enough to have a Christmas game. That is not to say Utah doesn't have good and or exciting players. That is to say Nikola Jokic is your MVP. And Denver is going to be good because Jokic is that good, which is part of the reason why he just won MVP last year. So, like, maybe highlight that guy and maybe put more effort into highlighting that guy.
I mean, he's been on Christmas Day the last 2 years.
Make it 3.
You got to be special to get 3 in a row, man.
I would. The MVP might be special. I don't know. That's my peeve. That's kind of.
Would you rather have him just been in a random Bucks Nuggets game?
I don't think you can have Bucks. You're asking the wrong person. I wouldn't care, but like I understand why the TV partners wouldn't do that. But like if you're already going West late for the late game, you just said it's Northwest Division type stuff. You have the MVP.
They went with the number 1 seed from last year. What can you do?
Go with the MVP. That's what you can do. That's what you could do.
Or you could flip it. If you have a team like Utah perform that well, you want to highlight them and give them some exposure as well. How about that, pal?
I think that is valid. I just think highlighting Nikola Jokic would be a little bit more valid. You know, we are fine to disagree on that point, but that was really the one weird one. Like, I get Boston, Milwaukee as well. Milwaukee, Philly might have done it more for me. Milwaukee, Miami might have done it more for me.
Oh, no, Miami, they got them out of there.
They did get them out of there. And, like, I'm not even super mad about that. But, like, if we're just nitpick, the real take is,
Well, I mean, the way it broke down, once you had the Lakers and the Nets, that was the primetime matchup. You knew what the first and the second would be. You had Milwaukee. Obviously was going to get one. You knew Steph Curry was going to be there. There's no way the league is going to have a Christmas Day slate without Steph Curry. So it's just who the matchups were going to be. And again, another nod to Phoenix for the run they made. They got a slot. And the Celtics got the nod over the Sixers. I thought it was going to be Sixers Bucks, but Jason Tatum for the win, I guess.
Jason Tatum going on up. Like, again, like in a vacuum, I don't really have an issue with any of the matchups. Like, I don't think there's a bad matchup on the Christmas Day slate. I should have started with that off rip. I have my complaints, things I would prefer to see more, but wanting to see like Jokic more or wanting to see a different matchup for the Bucks more does not mean that Bucks Celtics is bad or that Mavericks Jazz is bad. Like, I do think those are good matchups. I just think there was room for a little bit better for me.
All right, Jokic or Luka, who would you rather watch?
Jokic.
I would do a joke here, but I'm not going to do that.
We haven't had jokes in a week and a half, 2 weeks. Like, let them fly. I know you're just ready to get them out of there.
Okay, now you got to rank them. Rank the Christmas Day slate.
I'm ranking the Christmas Day slate. Okay, so I think we're all making the easy, make sure everyone's healthy caveat. Got it. Brooklyn, LA is going to be number one because, of course, it is. I went Golden State, Phoenix. I have Boston, Milwaukee. I have Dallas, Utah, and then I have Atlanta, New York.
The slander is real.
Where's the slander?
I'm surprised Mr. AVO didn't. They were number one or they were last?
No, I have that matchup last.
Oh wow, I'm surprised. Thought you'd be really excited for that.
No, I very much want to watch the Hawks. I don't think this is going to be a good game. I think the Hawks. We'll get into like season preview stuff like down the road and stuff. But like, I do think the Hawks are very, very, very much better than the Knicks, and I don't think that's going to be a fun early game slate. I feel like that's going to. I'm prepared to be old takes exposed on this, but I feel like that's very much going to be a open your presents, eat your food type thing by the third quarter. We'll see. But I don't think that's going to be a good game.
All right, here's my power rankings. I have Celtics Bucks at the bottom.
Okay.
Exciting game, but ultimately skippable. And mainly because of the time slot.
Okay.
That's the second game. Now, there are people out there who may have children, maybe relationships are married, may understand my point here. On this slate, you do have to sacrifice a game or two in order to watch the one you want. So I am not going to use my money on Celtics Bucks and cost myself either Warriors, Suns, or Nets, Lakers. So that's why they go to the bottom. All due respect, you can do some stuff during this game if you need to earn some points. Mavericks Jazz is next. I love Luka. I love the Jazz. It's the nightcap. You're probably going to be tired. Or on that, also in that spectrum, you may just be laying down watching the game. So I'll put it up there. Hawks Knicks for me is number 3.
Okay.
Now, I like the randomness of this. I like the fact that Trae Young is back in the Garden on Christmas Day as a heel. The antics there. It could be super ugly because it's the Knicks and it's an early tip, but I think Trae Young will make it fun, and I'm going to go with him. Warriors Suns next for me, and then obviously the Nets and the Lakers. Very excited for that matchup.
Okay, so you had some home life strategery factoring into your rankings.
Oh, absolutely. If you don't have a strategy come Christmas Day, once you hit a certain point, I don't know what you're doing. Think you're going to sit here and watch all 5. You got another thing coming, buddy.
I guess I'm blessed in that regard. Like I typically spend my Christmas, like my family gathers somewhere, whether it's my grandma's house, my aunt's house, or whatever. And we all just kind of chill for the day. Like everyone knows what I do, so they pretty much leave me alone for the games, which is
must be nice.
They oh man, like I get my pleasantries in. We meet up early in the morning for breakfast. Gifts are exchanged. They chop it up. I'm focused on the TV. I'll talk to you during commercial breaks if necessary. They know very much I'm still in work mode on Christmas, so I get some leeway there.
Big Grinch energy.
It's not big Grinch energy. Like I enjoy the holidays. Like I grab my plate in between breaks and stuff. You know, I'm clipping and laughing it up with the family and exchanging gifts. But you know, the games are on. Like the television's on ABC, then it's on ESPN, whatever. Like that's just, you know, I get it done.
Dunker dads, let me know if I'm off here. Y'all know y'all gotta go outside and ride some bikes, put some things together, fold some clothes.
Like I will see if things shift on that front whenever that bridge is crossed. But for now, I'm very much, hey, how are y'all? Merry Christmas. Here's your gift. The game is on. I got to get these clips to the timeline.
Oh, to be young. So blessed.
Hey man, it just is what it is. But okay, I feel that. Oh man, now that I think about it, Hawks Knicks probably it might not be a blowout. That is going to be ugly. It's a noon tip, and the Knicks are going to play ugly back. This game is going to be awful. It's going to be close by virtue of it being awful.
But it's the perfect first game.
Yeah, everyone's happy, and then we get to see like 89, 85 Hawks after Trey hits like a step back 28-footer with 17 left to ice it.
You either get an ugly close game or you get a game that gets out of hand early. It's a win.
Not for my basketball viewing heart. It's not a win. Again, maybe once I shift more to family man, then I will appreciate a bad basketball game on Christmas. But until then, I want to see good basketball on Christmas. Jesus. I can't.
You didn't see that curveball, did you?
No, I didn't. This is why you're on the pod. You provide perspectives that I simply cannot give. This is on and off the court, apparently. This is why you're here.
This is going to ruin our 5-star rating again.
We just got, it's funny, I checked that literally today. We are back to 5 stars. I'm very happy about that. Shout out to all the dunkers out there. We were on 4.9 for a minute because Steve jumped in with slander jokes. But we are back. Let's hope we hold serve. I'll throw the reminder in now. You know, if you haven't subscribed to us already, please do so. We're on all major podcast streaming platforms. Please give us 5-star reviews. Please leave us reviews. We read those. I read those. Steve clearly reads those because he was the one that brought it to my attention that we slipped to a 4.9 due to his shenanigans. But we are back. So we are going to do our best to keep it that way with top-tier basketball content.
That's a heck of a plug. Some would say it was very smart.
Gotta throw it in, man. Gotta throw it in. To some transaction talk. A minor note, while we've talked a little bit about Boston already, Marcus Smart name was in trade rumors, has been over the past 2-3 years. They've never moved him. He gets an extension this offseason, 4 years, $77 million. That extension kicks in not this season, but the next season. So it's essentially a 5-year, $90 million deal now for Marcus Smart. That is the max that they could have given him on the current contract in terms of the extension. How do you feel about the deal?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's a big sign of commitment. You mentioned Marcus Smart was kind of the name that maybe, hey, he's the piece that we can use to kind of build, and now he's kind of featured. You know, he's kind of going to be one of the building blocks, a core piece starting at the point guard position. I think just that commitment speaks to what he's brought to the table on both ends of the floor, how he's grown on both ends of the floor. Obviously, we know he's a great defender, great competitor, gets after it on that end, but offensively, his ability to run some things, whether it's posting up, get the offense going, get guys in the right spots. There's a comfort level there, and there's a leadership that they value alongside Jason Tatum, alongside Jalen Brown. And to see him get rewarded, you don't always see that. You know, he may have had to get his money elsewhere. He may have been traded, but he's still a Celtic. So I guess I would say salute to him for getting the bag, and salute to the Celtics for continuing to develop him and allow him the room to grow and obviously get the most out of him in that area. So I think that would probably be the biggest takeaway for me. It's been a big re-sign summer in that sense, and so it's not surprising, but obviously he's someone that Brad Stevens values greatly, and they're going to keep him around.
Definitely makes sense. One of the best defensive guards in the NBA. I'm actually curious, and I'll pose this as a question to you. Is Marcus Smart going to be the starting guard, the starting point guard for Boston? Or do they give that to Dennis Schroeder, who took a 1-year deal to join the Boston Celtics after not getting the contract that he may have hoped to have gotten from the Lakers or elsewhere? Do you do you start with Dennis Schroeder, or do you go with Marcus Smart since he already has the seniority there? Like, he's obviously played with Tatum and Brown, has some rapport there.
I go Marcus Smart, to be honest. Let those guys rock, build that way. let Schroeder come off the bench and be himself with that second unit. That guard room's going to be interesting because where does Peyton Pritchard land?
Yeah, like I mean, I think he's squarely the third guard, but like this is why I'm curious as to what Boston does with this. Because like I think just in a vacuum, Marcus Smart is better than Dennis Schroeder. Like I hope that isn't considered a take because I don't really think it's much of a debate for me. But I think Marcus Smart is better than Dennis Schroeder. However, I do think Dennis Schroeder is better at getting to the rim, and Boston desperately needs like a rim pressure guy. And with Schroeder being better than Smart at getting to the rim and also just being a better finisher, like I feel like that's a natural vibe there, just to kind of take some of the pressure off of Jason Tatum and also Jalen Brown. And then looking at the rest of the rotation, like I would like to have that kind of multi-positional defense in Marcus Smart and also another rim pressure guy alongside Peyton Pritchard, since he's more pull-up heavy. We'll talk about Pritchard a little bit later in the pod. But I think having Pritchard and Smart together is smart. Oh, well, it wasn't intentional, but I think that's a pairing that I would like if I was Boston. And so maybe you configure the rotation that way. Actually, a little bit more interested in what the closing line is going to be.
You made that pun without appreciating my segue. I just want that to be noted. What do you think about them? What do you think about them starting together? Schroeder, Smart, Tatum, Brown,
Horford. I don't love it.
Why not? Shooting?
Yeah, the shooting is kind of where I'm just like, I don't know.
You're just trying to cape for Josh Richardson.
I'm not trying to. I am not trying to cape for Josh. I hope Josh Richardson turns it around in Boston, bro. I need that for him. Weird fit in Philly, then like COVID field stuff in Dallas. Like I just want him to have an actual off season, and I want him to have a natural fit somewhere.
The tough part is the Josh Richardson we saw in Miami was so opportunity based. No disrespect to his game, but he had such a volume type deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to be recreated elsewhere. And so he's got to do what he did in tighter windows with less opportunity. It hasn't quite translated. This should be a good spot for him with what they need from his size, his length, his ability to play on both ends. And I think what you bring up is a good point with the closing lineup. If he can bring some of that to Boston, now he probably slides in there. Where you could have a lineup that has, let's say, Smart, Richardson, Brown, Tatum, insert big.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the most fun team to try and score on, in theory. So it'll be interesting to see how he does that. I mean, in general, I don't know if the Celtics have the shooting they need to accomplish what they're trying to do. That's still my concern with them, but they should be better defensively. Al Horford.
Welcome back.
Keep forgetting he's a Celtic again. Him and how did you need Al Horford and Cantor?
No, you didn't.
Wait, let me check their ages real quick.
Well, it's not going to work for Horford, at least. I love Al Horford. I will own up to any and all Enes Kanter slander. As a basketball player, at least. He seems like a good dude. But I'll own up to Enes Kanter slander in like important basketball games. I just don't think he can, whatever. We don't have to rehash like any of that with Enes Kanter. But Al Horford's a dude, man. As someone that watched an unhealthy amount of OKC Thunder games last year, like I've already liked Al Horford, but that man was good last year. So good that they had to shut him down for being too good. So like I'm fine with him being back in Boston. Boston has a good roster this year. They have a roster of good players. We'll see how it gels. We'll see how Ime Udoka kind of puts things together. But like, you have Smart, you have Schroeder, you have Peyton Pritchard, you have Josh Richardson in the guard room, you have Jalen Brown, you have Jason Tatum kind of in the wing forward-ish spot. You have Al Horford, you have Robert Williams. They have Cantor to provide some bench scoring if they need it or whenever they need it. Like Grant Williams is still interesting to me if he doesn't have to play the three, because that's just not his ministry at all. Like play him at the 4, at the 5 in certain lineups, and I think you can get some good stuff out of him. You can't have him on the perimeter at all. Boston has some stuff. Like I'm interested to see how it gels for them. Not you making a face with Grant Williams praise. What's happening there? He was not very.
No, nothing. I was just thinking out loud about the Marcus Smart deal and how it could have been viewed last year as opposed to this year and those kind of things. But good stuff for Boston. I think they're still going to compete. Shout out to Ime Udoka. Shout out to Brad Stevens. Ime Udoka built himself a Portland-based coaching staff. Salute for that. I'm still at home. It's fine. What did you think of? You like the Marcus Smart deal? You like the number?
Yeah, I like the number. Like, if it's 590, that's what, 18 a year. If I'm doing any sort of math correctly, I'd do that 10 out of 10 times. Just elite of the elite defender. The guy that has some underrated pick and roll chops, in my opinion. Like the shooting has gotten better. The shot selection still a little bit iffy for him. I think if you can rein him in some while still letting him do some Marcus Smart things to keep him involved, like I think you get the best of Marcus Smart. Like this is a very good basketball player. So like you tell me you get Marcus Smart for 590, I say sign me up immediately. So I'm fine with that.
Okay. So we got a guy who wants to be here. I can't wait to talk about a guy who didn't want to be here.
Before we get to him, we're going to talk some Grizzlies right now because they had some action. They've had a lot of action this offseason in terms of trades, like starting from the JV thing, the Steven Adams thing, and Eric Bledsoe. But we'll get to that. We have a minor move on their side. The Grizzlies did trade Grayson Allen to the Bucks for Sam Merrill and 2 future second rounders. I like Grayson Allen in Milwaukee. Like I think that's not insignificant in terms of guard depth. Like I think Grayson Allen is a good shooter, is a guy that can attack a bent defense. You don't want to give him any kind of primary ball handling reps, but is a guy that can attack a bent defense, can relocate around the perimeter, which I think is important if he's in any sort of lineup with Giannis or Jrue Holiday, either of those guys that can pressure the rim. Like I think Grayson Allen is a smart fit there. He's a fine defender. He will still get chippy with you and get into some scuffles. So if you were missing any of that kind of toughness, irritant thing from not Eric Bledsoe. If you're missing any of that toughness or irritant type stuff from PJ Tucker, I think Grayson Allen is going to fill that particular void. I think it's a nice buy low move for Milwaukee.
We started with Grayson Allen talk. Did you say he's going to fill the hole that PJ Tucker left by being annoying?
In terms of the annoyance, yeah, I'm not saying he's as good as, yeah. I made sure to say exactly what I said in terms of the, that I am in no way saying that he is as good of a defender as PJ Tucker is. No.
Well, I like the move from Milwaukee's perspective just because you add to that guard wing room. So I think when we talked in the last podcast, we talked about maybe Milwaukee lacking some of the versatility just with some of the moves, some of the guys leaving. But at a base, you have Dante, Connaughton, Grayson Allen, Chris Middleton, Rodney Hood. You can find a combination of 2 of those guys to play. Mm-hmm. And you at least have different options, more options you can go to, which we know is important for Milwaukee based on matchups. They'll throw different guys out there at different times. I think size-wise he helps. I think shooting-wise he helps. So I think he fits in with what they're trying to do. So it'll be interesting to see how much time he gets, but I do like the move to add to their depth. I think that was necessary. Obviously, they have a formula. It's just making sure they have the pieces to try and get back to it. You're not going to replicate what PJ Tucker brought to the table, but you can maybe get to the small lineups. You can maybe add some more shooting to the bench lineups and be able to mix and match. And, you know, they like to stagger their guys, keep their guys out there together more than they'd had in the past. So you have guys who are solid if they're not playing heavy minutes, but also guys who can be thrown in with those other key players and contribute. to what Milwaukee wants to do on both ends of the floor. So I do like that from them.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more ready to contribute than Sam Merrill at this point. Not that Sam Merrill can't play, but probably more helpful to the path that they're on right now as far as winning. And I mean, for Memphis, it's another chance to get a young guy, get some picks, and move on.
And like to the Milwaukee point, their rotation in particular, Mike Budenholzer has been much maligned for the way he manages minutes. That mostly pops up in the postseason setting, which, up until this past season, like he just would not play the starters heavy minutes in playoff settings. But I think during the regular season, it makes sense to kind of manage minutes and make sure you keep your guys fresh, make sure you keep your guys healthy. So as you wait for like a Dante DiVincenzo to recover from his injury and just general maintenance throughout the regular season, like having another depth piece helps. Again, just another guy that can shoot, another guy that can defend a couple of positions, not at an elite level, but a competent defender across two positions that can give you some lineup versatility in that regard, keep the guys fresh. And so once you do get to the postseason, the guys you want to ramp up for minutes are going to be more able to do that since you were able to kind of save them during the regular season. So I like that. For Memphis, like this is very much a financial move. Like I think Grayson Allen, if I'm not mistaken, Grayson Allen is up for an extension this offseason. And I don't think the Grizzlies wanted to pay him, which I can't imagine what Grayson Allen's market would be. Like, I don't think it would be more than like the mid-level exception, which I think would be fine for him. But kind of kicking that can down the road and getting Sam Merrill makes sense in a vacuum, but I also don't see what the path to Sam Merrill playing is. So I feel like this deal is more about the money and the picks than it is about Sam Merrill.
I think it was just an add-on more than anything else. So I'd agree with you. They accomplished their mission. They also got something they can potentially develop, see what he has, which is kind of the Memphis way right now.
They are certainly doing that. While we're on Memphis, Eric Bledsoe, a guard they acquired in that Steven Adams trade a little bit ago. Eric Bledsoe is now going back to the Clippers for Patrick Beverley, Rajon Rondo, and Daniel Oturu, which was kind of odd because Oturu had just finished playing a summer league game when he got traded. So that's, how about that? Going back to your phone in the locker room and seeing that you're not on the team anymore. But before we dig into the other portion of that trade, how do you feel about the Bledsoe fit in Los Angeles?
Well, it's a heck of a full circle type deal with him going back to the Clippers. I think that it intrigues me. They pretty much emptied their point guard room to get Eric Bledsoe, which also intrigued me. I think him getting to a destination or back to a quote unquote contender or solid team was likely what he needed at this stage, and he got to do it without handing back any of the bread. So I'm sure he's pleased with that. To me, trading Beverley and Rondo felt like a Reggie Jackson endorsement more than anything else. Like they understand what he has. They're going to bring him to the table. I think adding Bledsoe gives you a guy who you could play multiple positions, 1 and 2 if you needed to. I think offensively, we know he can bring to the table. Defensively, he can fit in with what the Clippers like to do if he's locked back in, which we know what he did in Milwaukee. We know what he did in New Orleans. Which Bledsoe are we going to get on that end of the floor is going to be important. But with what the Clippers try and do, I think he'll fit in with that a little bit better than he did last year. It also tells me they're trying to get some talent to survive that long haul without Kawhi and make sure they have someone with that kind of ability to help them on both ends of the floor, score the basketball, make some plays. It's just more which Bledsoe we're going to get. Is he going to be more engaged? Is he going to be back to what we saw early in the Milwaukee run? Or is this just who he is at this point? That'll be the interesting part for me. But I like the move. If you think Reggie's got what you need and you need someone behind him, go get Bledsoe, see what happens.
Like the immediate reaction that I saw on my Twitter feed, at least, and again, like this is my Twitter feed that's pretty curated and stuff. So like it's not the overall picture of what the reaction was. But from what I saw on my timeline, it was just a lot of dislike from everyone. Like the Grizzlies people that I followed didn't like it. The Clippers people that I followed Like overall, they didn't like it. Like there were some writers that I followed that did, but overall, it just felt like everyone saw the deal and was like, huh? And then after that, it was like, what is Team X doing? And I didn't really get that. Like it seemed pretty clear from both sides for me. Like I think for the Grizzlies, like they wanted to get another piece that they felt was a little bit more movable, and that proved to be correct. And we'll get into that trade shortly. They wanted to get some pieces that they could move down the road. And for the Clippers, like they wanted a guy that could help address some of the rim pressure concerns that they had. And we've talked about the Clippers and their rim pressure on this pod a bunch. And with Kawhi out, needing someone to getting someone that can take some pressure off of Paul George in that way certainly would be helpful. Because I mean, they want to be as best as they can. Like they're not going to tank or anything like that. They don't have the picks to do so anyway. So I think getting Eric Bledsoe and making the bet that he's going to be rejuvenated, being back in LA, and also being on a team that is better than the Pelicans team they played for last year and projects to be better than the Grizzlies team that he was going to be playing for, at least until the deadline or whenever they can move him. Like, I think that's a fair bet to make. The Clippers were able to save some money in the trade as well. So like if you can fill a need, get, zooming out, probably the best player featured in that trade, and also save money, you're going to do that trade 10 out of 10 times. So I think it's a fine deal for both sides. And then that just takes us to Patrick Beverley once again being moved, which is, that part was kind of funny, I will say.
He tweeted that grit and grind out a little too quick.
Yeah, like that. It's not funny, but it is kind of funny. Feels very much Reggie Jackson resigns it like, all right, cool, the gang's back, and then he gets traded to Memphis. It's like, all right, grit and grind, let's go. And then he gets traded to Minnesota and is like very excited about this trade. And it's like, bro, you don't have to. We know. Like, we know. Don't be unprofessional, but also we know. Like, that's a lot to happen in like not even a week. Like we understand. Like we know. We'll just leave it there. But the trade itself was Patrick Beverley going from Memphis to Minnesota for Jarrett Culver and Juancho Hernan-Gomez. And I will say, the initial trading Bledsoe and getting Beverley and Rondo in the door and stuff like that, that made sense to me. This one makes less sense. Like this fits Memphis's age range. Like they're taking the flyer on Jarrett Culver, who was not good in Minnesota, period. Was just not good. Opportunity, injury, shot not being there, whatever. He just was not good on balance. Juancho Hernan-Gomez, I will just say he was better in Denver than he was in Minnesota from what I watched. And so not only are you taking these two kind of flyers on your bench, you then look at the depth chart and it's like, okay, you're taking the flyer on Jarrett Culver. Who are you playing him over? You zoom out and look at the shooting issue for Memphis right now, and it's like, okay, who are you playing Jarrett Culver with? So like, if you're taking the flyer, where is he getting the minutes? And when you do find the minutes for him, how exactly is he being maximized? Because like, I don't think he has interest. He's shown some interesting flashes with the ball in his hands. Like that was part of the intrigue with him coming out of college, that he can handle the ball. He can make some plays for you. But like, are you giving him the second unit? Like, I don't think you do that when you have like Tyus Jones, when you have D'Anthony Melton. And depending on how the front court rotation shakes out, a guy in Xavier Tillman in the front court that you kind of play through in the high post and run some passing actions for him that way. Like, do you give Culver those on-ball reps? And if you do you have enough shooting around him? I don't know. Like, part of the shooting would be solved with Juancho Hernan-Gomez if he finds the stroke again. And that's been an iffy proposition over the last year and a half, 2 years. So that's just weird to me. Like, I think Patrick Beverley very clearly feels a need for Minnesota. Like, they need a backup point guard. They need to boost the defense in particular, because the defense is very good. They need a point of attack guy because they are just insistent on playing cat and drop. So they need someone that can fight over screens and stay connected to ball handlers. Patrick Beverley can still do that. We just saw it in the playoffs. So I like it for Minnesota. I can't get there for the Memphis side.
Well, I got destroyed on Twitter for my thought on this trade by Minnesota Timberwolves fans, where I literally just said Jared Culver absolutely fits the mold of the type of player Memphis is looking to acquire and succeed with, because he's young and he's long and he's athletic and he's still on a rookie deal. And they've generally tried to see what they have with those type of players. Got killed by Minnesota fans who have strong opinions about Jared Culver.
They are very clear about how bad he's been. Like I had a tweet, and I'll let you continue. I don't mean to jump in, but like I had a tweet about when I saw that Culver. There was a report that Culver was on the block. I was like, if you could get Jared Culver for a second, and that's literally all I said. If you could get Culver for a second, comma, that was the tweet. And immediately got Timberwolves fans in my mentions, like, for what? This is one of the worst players in the league. I'm just like, I didn't even say he's good. I'm just like, take the flyer for a second. Like, out.
Yeah, projection at its finest. But I think that I wonder how much of this was financial as far as Beverley's deal and maybe trying to get off that, maybe trying to have a controllable contract, a movable contract going forward. The interesting part is of the 2 point guards, I thought Beverley would be more likely to stay and Rondo would be out the door. Now, obviously, it appears Rondo's probably still out the door. And they still have Tyus Jones, who they like. So it makes sense maybe to clean that guard room up. The interesting part is I don't know if you have room for either of these guys, which is why I lean more towards maybe the financial aspect of it and maybe being able to see what you have in them and, again, see if you can consolidate more guys if you need to in the future. I like the Culver flyer from the aspect that it's low risk. There's no risk for Memphis in acquiring him. You know what you have your pieces, you have your rotation. If somehow you can get something out of him, all of a sudden you found a diamond in the rough. If you cannot, then you move forward. The Hernangomez part, I just don't know where he plays. Their big man room is just so crowded right now. Yeah. When you have Steve Adams, you have Jaren Jackson Jr., you have Brandon Clark, who you're still trying to figure out what exactly who he is and what he is and how to get him back to where he was in his rookie season. You have Xavier Tillman, who showed the flashes he did last year on both ends of the floor. So it's like, where's that fit? But ultimately, it felt like Memphis acquiring talent. Like it felt like more of a Memphis move than getting Beverley and Rondo. And I feel like tying back to what you said earlier, I feel like the reaction was kind of like, wait, what's Memphis doing? Because that it just didn't feel like a Memphis move. Usually they go for youth, that type of deal. And they eventually did by getting Culver. But to me, it just feels like a wash almost. Patrick Beverley could have helped them for sure. He would have fit in defensively. But ultimately, I think he was part of the plan, continue to get younger, try and take a stab at this and see if we got something. The Minnesota part, the only problem I had with it from Minnesota's perspective is it just felt like a year too early to let go of Culver. I know I'll get destroyed for that. But it just, I don't know if you knew. It's hard to, I don't know if you knew exactly what you had. He may have performed poorly. I won't get into that talk. But it's tough to give up on the number 6 pick that quick to me. You know, if you're going to pick a lottery guy, you got to at least give him the rope, if that makes sense. To where, okay, this really isn't working. You got to go. But I understand if you look at Minnesota's wing room, their guard room, doesn't make sense to force him in there when, hey, we can go with Anthony Edwards, we can go with Malik Beasley, we can go with McDaniels. We have other options, and those guys may have passed him up. So it was like, hey, Might as well get him out of here and let's strengthen our point guard depth. Now the interesting part is you trade Ricky Rubio for Taurean Prince, and then you trade Jarrett Culver and Hernan Gomez for Patrick Beverley. And I'm a little confused by those moves, if that makes sense. Like that's $27 million for Patrick Beverley and Taurean Prince and a young team.
Yeah, like I think from that perspective, like they're very much making the play-in push this year, or they're going to attempt to. Like again, we'll do season preview stuff down the road, so I don't want to go too deep into that right now. But like I think the intention is very much clear. Like they want a non-suspended Beasley. They want the full thing with D'Angelo Russell, like another year of Cade under Chris Finch, Anthony Edwards with another year of growth, add some veterans. Like it's very clear they want to, they're not trying to slow build this. Like they want to make moves now. Then once you factor in like the team's going to be sold, is it sold? Is it going to be sold? The Alex Rodriguez thing is just very confusing to me at this point, but they're going to make the push. So I guess I get it from that. And also in regards to Culver and having, you know, the pieces that they have on the roster in the wing room, like improve and pass them up on the depth chart, I do respect Minnesota in that regard for pulling the plug early. Like I'm generally like give young guys the leash. I mean, give them the room to grow and things like that. But if you simply don't have it, then I understand trying to maximize your return there. If you don't think he fits and you also don't have the playing time for him, like he got passed out by other young dudes.
I feel like I'm in an alternate universe right now.
In an alternate universe, well, I think like
this man just said, "Get rid of the young guy."
No, like
I'm stunned.
What? I don't think that's a hot take. Like I feel like if Minnesota didn't have like McDaniels and Edwards and the guys they have on the wing ahead of him already, they'd be like, okay, this is early. Like it's already been a weird fit. Like there's been a coaching change. He's dealt with some injury stuff, and like in a vacuum, the college to NBA transition can be difficult sometimes. So like guys need time to grow. Like I'm not out on Culver as a player, period. But like I do understand Minnesota being like, okay, you haven't proven it for, you know, because of you or because of injury or because of coach, whatever, all the factors you want to put in there. It hasn't worked so far. We now have guys that are both younger than you and better than you, and we want to make a playoff push. And we have other voids to fill on the roster based on just who we already have and also prior moves. You mentioned they traded Ricky Rubio, got Taurean Prince. So I understand them looking at all of that and saying, okay, Culver may not be a lost cause in a vacuum, but we don't really have the path for him to find that here based on what we have. And we also have needs. So if there's an opportunity for us to maximize return on him, fill a need, and kind of get out of that cost, then let's do that now. And I think it's smart for teams to recognize that early versus holding on, getting to like the end of the rookie contract, and then you're either overpaying them and praying, or you're letting them go for nothing.
I'm so stunned because you are a team, play the young guy, give him the rope, give him the leash, let him play, but also cut the ties quick.
If there was more of a,
also they created the need.
They did.
So it's like, and Taurean Prince isn't even healthy. So that's where I'm just like, I feel like you could have done this. Like you didn't have to do this right now, but I understand. I get it. You're sound in your reasoning. They made their decision. Hey, we're done. Write it off. Get him out of here. Let's go. But those sometimes feel like the moves that kind of bite you in the back end because you missed out on your pick.
Yeah.
You didn't get the biggest return on that pick.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's say that pick goes on somewhere else and succeeds. That takes a hit, quote unquote, culture wise. But, it's the Wolves. This is your squad. So what's interesting is, are they now going to try and slide to more McDaniels or Vanderbilt at the 3 type deal? Or is this just going to be Josh Okogie all over again?
Like they flirted with some Vanderbilt McDaniel minutes around Cat. Like I clamored for that. I'm just like, hey, if McDaniels can knock down shot, like Vanderbilt would be the bad shooter there. But like I think you need as much length and activity on the back line behind Cat as possible. So if you're going to lean into Vanderbilt McDaniels together, you're going to have D'Lo and Anthony Edwards, and both of those guys are kind of messes on defense right now. Like I think you need that kind of defensive infrastructure. So from there, like I get it.
Yeah, I'm chilling on the Timberwolves talk for a minute. After that experience.
That was a very fun pod. Moving on to some summer league talk. What a time. What a time in Vegas, bro.
Did you bring your PS5?
I didn't. I did not, and I instantly regretted it.
Only you.
Don't. Because I'm not an out on the town dude. Like, so it's just like, okay, game's done. What's happening? Where are we eating? And then after where are we eating, it's okay, cool. Let's go to the room. That's just that's me. That doesn't make me any better or worse than anyone. Like, that's just my personality. I'm very much, let me watch my games. Let me get some food. Let me chill.
Summer League, the hub of the NBA during the summer networking palace. Nekias is looking to get some Raisin Canes and take a nap.
I mean, judge me not, Mr. Jones. Judge me not.
I'm not judging you. I did the same thing.
Oh, see, there we go.
I was there.
See, there it is. There it is.
What did you think of Summer League? How did you feel about this experience? All 30 teams in Vegas. They went away with the tournament just because they had to get it in, which I thought was just made it a little odd.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the standings were at any point in time. So, and then it like Summer League just naturally doesn't have a crescendo, if that makes sense. It generally peaks 4 to 5 days in.
Yeah.
And it's just natural. You're not going to play your guys the entire time. If you have your second year roster guys, they're probably going to get a couple in, and that's going to be a wrap for them. Rookies, maybe 3, maybe 4. And the rosters are built in such a way that you do have to get everyone time, because you have guys that you're not only taking a look at, you have guys that are on the team for a particular reason, and you've agreed to have them on that team for a reason. And you never know who you're going to upset if you don't play that guy. So if you're ever looking at day 6, 7 of Summer League and wondering, hey, why is this guy playing? There's a reason.
Summer League politicking. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. But the way that I would describe the Summer League experience this year was odd. Like, it just wasn't 2019 for me.
Yeah,
which is
because I wasn't there. Duh.
Unironically, yeah, it would have been nice to have. Like, I went to the arena in the Dunker Spot t-shirt. Shop.basketballnews.com if you want to get some Dunker Spot merch. But I had my Dunkers.
Still don't have a shirt. It's fine.
How do you don't have the password? You don't have a shirt. I don't understand how this. Anyway, but no, it was just weird. Like, I'm still getting used to being in the arena again. So like, that's part of it for me. Like the Atlanta playoff games, as fun as it was to talk about on the timeline on the pod, like those were my first games of the year. And so to jump from that to the Summer League experience, to where like it's already supposed to be a looser field because of Summer League, but to have basically like regular season or playoff like restrictions at Summer League of all places, it was just weird. And so like the turnout was good in Vegas. In terms of fans, even with media, at least for the days that I was there, the turnout was good, but like everyone was masked, which of course you should be masked. And like, it just wasn't as loose as it normally is. Like, even the concession, like all the concession stands weren't open. They only had a few open compared to like the last couple of years. It was just a weird experience. It was weird. Like, I'm not going to say I regret going or anything like that. Like, I enjoyed watching the basketball. I was still able to network a little bit, was able to meet some of my online pals and things of that nature. So like, it was cool, but it just wasn't what I was used to the first 2 years that I've been there.
Well, yeah, Summer League usually has a loose vibe. You know, there may have been some people in 2010 who may have just rode up the elevator whenever they wanted to watch any Summer League games, not naming any names.
Huh.
But I would imagine with restrictions, it has to be that way. But, you know, Summer League is fun. Like, I just love that you could watch so many of the games. And I think more people enjoyed Summer League than it felt like normally. Like, obviously, there was the Summer League gatekeeping, which is, hey, don't overreact to Summer League. And I'm going to combat that. Overreact to Summer League all you want. Enjoy it. That's what it's there for. Do you know how many bad takes I made as a little child about Summer League? Do you know how many times I told my dad, yo, Quintel Woods, he's the one?
Oh, that's a
Summer
deep.
League. Just telling you. I fell for all the bucket getters growing up. So I get it. Have a blast. But Summer League basketball is Summer League basketball, and that's never going to change. It's just is what it is. Whole lot of quick threes, some pick and rolls, broken down plays, misexecuted timeout plays, and buckets with the occasional lob thrown in. And I felt my heart goes out to every coach when an out of timeout play is not executed. I feel so badly for them, especially because this is an opportunity not just for the players, for the staff as well. Mm-hmm. Coaching staff is usually guys getting an opportunity to show what they can do. Video room, you get to come out. Assistant coaches, you get to get a bump up, and different guys get to do different things. And you finally drop a good play, they come out and it's misexecuted, and it's like, well, there's one of my 6 chances to do that. But I'm on a tangent. Anyways, let's get to our Summer League takes.
Very Summer League takes, gotta love it. But very simple question for you. Kind of going back to our regular season type feel for this section. What teams did you enjoy watching the most this year for Summer League?
Is it a cop-out to say the Kings?
No, not at all.
I did like, really for me, because I love defense. I love the joy that they had playing defense, the effort they displayed, trying to get stops, the whole bench clapping and yelling and screaming, and everyone getting excited about that. That was fun. I enjoyed the early Rockets before Jalen Green went down. They were fun. Watching Sengun play, watching Josh Christopher play, they were fun to watch on both ends of the floor. I thought offensively they did well. I liked watching the Warriors as well, mainly because you had Kuminga doing Kuminga things and Moses Moody taking whatever shot he could, and Kyle Guy was on a mission to prove to anyone that they were wrong. That man had a chip on his shoulder bigger than the golden nugget. So those would probably be the ones that I enjoyed the most.
I'm glad you brought up, while I'm here, while we're kind of on the Warriors, like I did enjoy watching the Warriors as well. Like Jonathan Kuminga seems to be, the shooting numbers were not good, but like Jonathan Kuminga seems to be less of a project than I thought he would be. Like he looked like he belonged athletically and stuff, which that wasn't going to be the question, but like he also didn't look out of place either, just in terms of the off-ball movements and defensive rotations that he was making. So like I think Kuminga's going to be, I think he's going to be a little bit better in his rookie year than I thought coming in. And I'm not sure how responsible of a take that is, considering it is Summer League basketball, but I do feel a little bit better about Kuminga after watching in that regard. In terms of the teams that I enjoyed watching, like I was with you on Houston. Wrote about them a little bit today in Roaming the Baseline. You can check that out on basketballnews.com. This is a plug-heavy podcast, man. Jesus. But no, Houston was fun. Like the Jalen Green experience is legit. That man can get his shot off whenever he wants to. And like the passing flashes were also very fun to me. Also, like the defense was better than I anticipated. And again, he wasn't facing NBA like big league caliber guard play throughout his time there, but he did look pretty solid on ball. Like the screen navigation was a little bit better than we saw with the G League Ignite squad. Like in that heralded Pistons Rockets matchup, like he defended Cade a lot and didn't look completely out of face. I would say Cade got the better of him overall. in those matchups, but like he wasn't getting burned or anything. So like that was a positive for me. Josh Christopher is just a hilarious human being to watch play basketball. That man was everywhere. He was clamping up dudes. He was getting to the rim whenever he wanted. He was also jacking up some absolutely awful shots sometimes. And like man. So for that Rockets Pistons game, me, group of friends, my girlfriend, we were all there. We were sitting beside either, I don't know if it was some of his family members or if these were family friends. But at any rate, we were literally on the same row as them. And when Josh Christopher did literally anything, they went off. It was such a joyful experience. Like that was probably the highlight of Summer League for me, just listening to them cheer for Josh Christopher do basketball things. And like he played well in that game overall. So like that was just a fun thing to do. But yeah, Summer League Rockets are cool. I don't want to see Kyrie Thomas run pick and rolls anymore. That's a small knock for the Houston squad. But beyond that, Houston was fun. Brooklyn was fun. Cam Thomas got buckets all over the place. Day'Ron Sharpe did some good things. I want to see a little bit more from Kessler Edwards. Like a lot of the smart draft people that I follow were kind of shocked that he slid as far as he did, and they really like him as kind of one of those second round sleepers. Like he didn't do it for me, so maybe I just missed something. I will just see. And Denver was the only one for me. They were not very good.
No bones about it.
I will allow it. Bones Highland is fun. The shot creation flashes are ridiculous, and he's pulling from 30 already. So that's fun. And like anytime Bobo's on my television screen, I'm going to watch. I will forever root for Bobo. I still have no idea what that man's doing on defense. He can block shots, but looks like a fish out of water literally everywhere else outside the paint. But on offense, he's just fun. Like 7'2", 7'3" dude, slow jumper with a high release point, lanky dude just pulling up threes off movement, gets to the rim, can finish over the top. Like he's just fun. Bobo is fun. I'm always going to have a soft spot in my heart for Bobo.
I hear you. It's a good list. Salute to the Hornets as well. They didn't win the game, but I liked watching JT Thor do stuff. So that was fun.
That's a fun transition. Because Charlotte was one of the teams that I did not enjoy watching.
Oh, right into it. Unplanned, folks. The chemistry is there.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Then take a little break, come right back. Still can hit the give and go. But yeah, like Charlotte and Portland were the two teams that I just wasn't fond of during the summer league experience.
Oh boy.
And like this
Portland take.
like
City, watch out.
Okay. But the roster construction for both squads bothered me immensely. Because like in a vacuum, like you can sign me up for LiAngelo Ball trying to do stuff. And I don't think there was a player cheered for more than LiAngelo Ball. Like, I don't think the crowd popped for anyone like LiAngelo Ball. Top three was probably LiAngelo, Jalen Green, and Cade in terms of crowd reaction. It was insane listening to the crowd react to him in person. But like, you can sign me up for the LiAngelo Ball experience and the can he earn a two-way deal, can he not type thing. Kai Jones, one of my favorite prospects coming in. I have no idea if he's going to be good, but any dude with that kind of size that has the ball flat, the creation flash that he has and that kind of ridiculous athleticism, like sign me up for that dude. JT Thor's a fun one. You mentioned him on the draft pod. So like they had guys, and then James Bouknight, UConn guy. I'm a UConn fan. So like I was going to root for him there. So like they have guys that I was intrigued in, but like the roster just didn't make sense. Like the ball handlers were James Bouknight, Grant Riller, who I'm also a fan of, and like nothing in the way of playmaking. And like, even with those two guys, like they're not natural playmakers. They're very much, I'm going to get mine. And if the defense reacts to me, I can make a kick out if necessary. They're not set the table dudes. So like, those are your ball handlers. And then like in the case of JT Thor and Kai Jones specifically, like these are super athletes that you either need to get out the way and just let them throw up over themselves and see what they can do as creators, or you need to feed them easy looks to get them going. And like they just didn't have that access. Like Kai Jones wasn't going to get on ball reps over like James Bouknight or anything, because duh. And neither was JT Thor. So then it's like, okay, set the table for those guys. And then you look at the roster and it's like, okay, who is setting the table for those guys? So part of the reason why the Hornets did not win a game is because they really couldn't get into coherent offense half the time, which it's summer league. So you expect some of that, but they didn't do themselves any favors either. And for Portland, like, what was the point? Is kind of where I'm at with Portland. Why is Kenneth Faried playing summer league basketball?
Get a look at him. See if you want to bring him in.
Why though?
Kenneth Faried slander?
It's not even Kenneth Faried. Like,
check his age real quick.
If you, oh jeez, is that the first one of the pod? Second one of the pod. I think you did that with the Cantor Horford conversation. Okay, but no, it's just like for summer league, you are trying to get the young guys you care about reps, or you're trying to find some bargain bin guys, preferably young ones. And so when I see Kenneth Faried on the roster, I'm just like, okay, Portland's not going to sign Kenneth Faried. Kenneth Faried could have averaged 25 and 18. Portland was not going to sign him. You know why Portland wasn't going to sign him? Because Kenneth Faried isn't going to help your defense. And you know what Portland needs? Defenders. And so, like, if you walk through the exercise, let's say Portland signs Kenneth Faried. Who is he playing over? What position is he playing? And so, like, I look at that. I look at Emmanuel Mudiay on the roster, and it's just like Anthony Simons didn't play, and like he's a third-year guy at this point. So, like, I didn't expect him to. But I'm just like, where's Nasir Little? Where are the young guys that you care about? Or where are the young undrafted guys that you are intrigued about and want to see? Like, where was that on the roster? Because I didn't see that. And so then I'm just like, okay, what's the point? You just fielded a team just to field a team. And like, you already have your star wondering what you're doing this offseason. You didn't really make big free agency splash. You haven't made big trades. You have a summer league opportunity and you give Kenneth Faried a spot. Like, I feel like I'm being very mean to Kenneth Faried. It's not him. It's like what he represents. And what he represents.
It's too late now. You can't clean it up.
It's not about Kenneth Faried specifically. It's about what he represents on that roster, which is the opposite of an answer to anything that you have going for you right now.
I'm always a fan of the veterans that come back to Summer League. That's a big thing. When you look at the rotation, the evolution of these guys, you play Summer League, you graduate from Summer League, you get paid, you fall out, and now to get back in, you got to go back to Summer League. That takes some humility. So I look at the Brandon Knights, the Kenneth Farieds, the Michael Beasleys suiting it up and going to Summer League.
Michael Beasley's was on that team.
And so I salute them for taking the opportunity and showing up. They didn't have to show up. So I'll give them that. As far as Kenneth Faried goes, as you continue to torch Portland to the point where I'm not going to be allowed to go home. At this rate, I think we're 7 podcasts in a row, losing all my connections, but you keep getting on those Blazer podcasts. I don't mind taking a look at a veteran guy and seeing if they still have it and seeing if they could add it. Now, the problem for Portland is they have X amount of players, so they don't really have that much room to add anyone anyways. So you may not get the guys that you want to take a look at. That's just part of Summer League. You have a list of guys that you want, and they want to go somewhere else where they could A, play, and B, actually get a shot. You know, if you're a team that has a bunch of slots already committed, you're probably not going to get your first, second, or third choice. And you still have to put a team together. So that may have played a role in there. I thought it was odd that those 3 were there once I saw the roster come out, but I thought it was fun. Obviously, the results were mixed. But I can't knock Portland for saying, hey, let's take a look at Mudiay, see what he's got. See what he's got left in the tank. Let's see if Michael Beasley, see if he has something. See if we can bring him into camp. Because they're not going to, if let's say they get the undrafted young guy, which I'm not disagreeing with the logic behind it. They're not playing. There's not a chance they're playing.
You don't know that though.
They can barely get the young guys they have on in the game. They got to find room for Anthony Simons, Nasir Little, CJ Elby.
He was on the team, but like,
so they're barely looking for those guys. So if they're going to add anyone, it's probably going to be someone who's quote unquote proven that'll take a role and you could possibly depend on for X amount at certain times. So I'm just discussing the logic on the other end and trying to make sure that next summer I can return back to the 503 and be safe.
You're going to be safe. This is all me. Like, I was just very confused by the lot. Like,
my name is on that Dunker Spot t-shirt. Just so you know.
But this is me speaking. Like, you're safe. You have not said an ill word about Portland. This is all me wondering. Like, what I've been wondering what Portland's been doing this entire offseason.
So is Dame.
Yes,
dropped an album. In the music video, he was just alone in the sand.
I feel like he's saying some things. I would be a little bit concerned if I was. Speaking of which, Neil O'Shea was at Sports Business Classroom. And
did he punch you in the face?
No, no, thank goodness. He was he ran a class after me and Alex did, actually. And I was just looking and I was like, I wonder what questions they're going to ask him after he finishes. And I just kind of left it there. Because at that point, we had to get to the arena and watch some games. The class was taught on Thursday. That was also my flyout day. So I wanted to catch some games before flying back home. But yeah, that was a whole, yeah. That's some fun stuff. So I did not enjoy the Portland experience. Is kind of where I'm at.
The hashtag is big mad, folks. Now, I also like to picture that Neil O'Shea brushed you off at the in the classroom, and your retaliation has been this rant on
Oh man, I wish I should have tried to manufacture something for the pod. Like, see, I have to get into like content creation mode more often. I really do. I have to build this thing out, like set up some fake beefs and all this different stuff. Like, I should have I don't know, like challenged him to like a duel or something. I don't know. Really spruce up the podcast, get the viewers up, get the downloads up. But
I don't know if we're getting engagement off challenging folks to duels.
I mean, not with that attitude. Before we get into our personalized list, let's get our quick thoughts on the top 5 in the lottery this year, since this was quite the class up top. Cade Cunningham averaged basically 19-6, a couple assists, 4 turnovers, 2 steals and a block. Shot very well from 3, 50% from 3 on nearly 9 attempts per game. Those are the basic stats. What stood out to you about Cade Cunningham's summer league stint?
For me, I like the playmaking that he had on display. I like the shot making, obviously. I think you understood the praise that he got. I think when you say plays at his own pace, it's an overrated buzzword probably at this point, but he really does operate with a patience, which is important for a young guard. And you saw him do that against multiple types of coverages. Against drop, wasn't afraid to come off, eat the space up, either take his shot or get to the rim, make the right reads. If they came up higher, wasn't afraid to attack and initiate contact and make those kind of plays. I thought the off-ball stuff was a little bit of an adventure at times, but some of that is just natural summer league flow. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes going forward. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't afraid to make the passes, wasn't afraid to make the plays. For me, an area of opportunity for him is just doing a better job of setting up his screens and giving himself more of a chance to operate in more space. There were a few times as I was watching where he would attack before the screen was really set, which is okay at times, but you need to have the space. So he ended up kind of boxing on the sideline at times and not necessarily being able to turn the corner or engage the big or snake back or anything like that. So that's something for me to watch as he goes forward. But Cade Cunningham is Cade Cunningham, and the people wanted to watch him for a reason.
I'm glad you brought up the point about him setting up his screens. Because I came away like, I thought Cade was good on balance. Like the defense was very strong, very good on ball reps, smart rotator, very good helping down Danielle, kind of swiping his hands in there. Like he knew where to be on the defensive end. I am not worried about him at all. Offensively, made some solid passes. The placement on kickouts was a little bit of an adventure that kind of carried over from his 1 year at Oklahoma State. So I'm going to be tracking that to see like how much of a deal that's going to be. I was also a little bit surprised that he was off ball more. Like I get it, since they wanted to get Killian Hayes some reps. Sadiq Bey was there for whatever reason. I'm not sure why he played summer league. You're good. You're a good player. Like
that man might have just still been in Vegas from Team USA.
There, like yeah, sure, I'll lace it up for a couple of games. Like so, I got it. But even then, like the on-ball reps were mostly encouraging for him. Like he still made the right reads, even if the passing accuracy was a little hit or miss at times. The shooting, it's hilarious that shooting was a question for Cade heading into college and heading into the league a little bit. That man can shoot now. Like he is pulling against unders, like he's relocating off ball, drilling shots from the corners, drilling shots from the wing. Rim pressure is where I'm raising my brow a little bit now. You mentioned him setting up his screens, kind of going early sometimes. Like outside of the rep against Jalen Green, where he like sets him up one way, crosses over, goes behind the back, and Jalen Green just goes flying and he flows into a pull-up three. Very pretty highlight. Outside of that, like it didn't seem like it was easy for him to get to the rim. And like his general burst was kind of a question heading in for, the smarter people than me that watched him a lot longer than I have. Like, I think it's okay to not be an elite burst guy. Like the high end example of that is Luka right now. Like he's not a blow by you dude, but he knows how to set up screens. He also plays his own pace. He's also very strong. Like Cade is also strong. He's going to fill out more. So I think it's going to be less of a concern moving forward. But it seemed like a struggle for him to get to the rim if he didn't run this guy into a screen. If he didn't wrong foot a guy, then he kind of struggled a bit. And that kind of showed in the free throw rate. Like 2 free throws in 3 games. For a guy of Cade's skill, a guy of his size, his general craft, the pacing, like to not get to the line pretty much at all during summer league where guys are hacky and he's not facing, I mean, he did in the Houston game, but like he's not facing great defense overall. That's a little bit concerning because if he's struggling to get to the rim and struggling to get to the line there, like once he gets an NBA roster, he'll have better teammates around him, but also he's going to get tougher defensive assignments. I'm just wondering like what that's going to look like in year 1 for him. But other than that, like, again, I don't have much, like, these are just things I'm going to be watching. I'm not writing, they're not red flags to me. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, this is something to keep an eye on for Cade.
No, I agree. And again, that's part of the fun of summer league. For me, I'm always looking for just little things that may transfer, that may pop up, those kind of type deals. So for me, I thought Cade checked the boxes he needed to check, and now we see how he builds on that little taste of the NBA. But fun stuff. Kid can play.
There we go. Jalen Green, second pick of the draft, seemed like the star of summer league at the early going. Averaged a shade over 20 points, shot 51% from the field, 53% from 3 on solid volume. Also added a couple of assists, 4 rebounds. Jalen Green was fun. Like he looked at home. It was kind of my read for him. And it made sense considering like he just spent a year in the G League. So he was very much not overwhelmed at all by like the bump in talent that he saw. In fact, he often looked like the best player on the court, which I think that bodes well for Houston. Like he's basically been, he's been playing against pros for a year now. And he goes into summer league and he averages not just 20 a game, but an efficient 20 a game. I hate that his summer league experience got cut short, but again, shot creation there, space creation was there, pick and roll poise was there. Like I included this in my Roam the Baseline article. I clipped this live during the Rockets Pistons game where he gets an empty corner pick and roll, sets up a screen, rejects it, comes back to it, takes it. The guy slips the screen on time, pocket pass, gets, I believe it was Kenyon Martin Jr. I think KJ Martin gives him a dunk off the slip. And it's like, okay, he's making not just the right read, but he's making it quickly. And if he can handle those kind of on-ball reps already, like him and KPJ are going to be fun. Not going to be good because the rest of the Rockets roster has some issues, but like just in terms of the creation between those two guys, like that's going to be fun to track next year. Where are you on Jalen Green?
This man went to Vegas and switched up. I thought the Rockets would be his number one team to watch.
Oh, I'm going to enjoy watching Houston. Like, I don't think they're going to rack up wins. Like that's two separate conversations.
No, I mean, bucket getter. I mean, you go back to the discussion we had on our pre-draft podcast where we talked a lot about Evan Mobley, Jalen Green, and I felt like my response was, but he can score though. And that was on display. I mean, the kind of shots that he was taking, the kind of shots that he was making on the ball, defender in his hand, step back, that's tough. I liked, obviously, the scoring. I thought the ability to attack in space was also on display. He just felt comfortable. It was interesting at times when he got pressured full court or the ball pressured. Some of those reps were interesting. So I'm fascinated to see how he adjusts to maybe more of the physicality. And I'm also tracking how he handles the space, because it's clear when he has the space, when he can lead the dance, he's going to get to where he wants to get to. And as you mentioned, he is a willing passer. Now, I want to see how he continues to read those plays, especially as more defenses play. He sees different coverages, more weak side help, those type of things. But he was willing to make the passes, which combined with the ability to score is a pretty good package. And I also want to see if he can get more off-ball reps. Like he had a couple pin downs, catch and shoot type deals. I want to see if he can grow in that area as well, especially with the current roster makeup of Houston, to where you can now mix him on and off the ball. I think that would be tough. But yeah, that ball pressure, facing the physicality, facing less space, that's going to be what I want to see. Can he navigate those tight windows? Because he likes to snake, keep you on your back, and kind of attack almost, I don't want to say quickly like, but quickly-esque.
Mm-hmm.
But can you do that when the weak side is there and avoid getting stripped? Can you do that against more sophisticated bigs as far as coverages go? Can you handle when they're higher at the level, when maybe you can't turn the corner, maybe they're taking away that shot, those kind of deals. So I was very impressed, though. His game is built for summer league, and he put on a show.
That he did. And I hate to keep going back to this game. I mean, just such a big matchup for whatever. I mean, within the summer league context anyway. I think this is why it was interesting to me to see the Rockets Pistons game in particular, because the first ball screen Jalen Green runs, like they send two to the ball on him. And it's like, okay, let's see how quickly he retreats, how quickly he makes the read. Like he wasn't hitting the slip car early, but he eventually settled in. And like the play I described a little bit earlier, when he goes to that empty corner pick and roll, hits KJ Martin on the roll, like that was in the second half. And at that point, like Houston was starting to run away with things because he'd found the rhythm. Like Josh Christopher was doing things, like Alperen Sengun was doing basically what he wanted. But it's going to be interesting to see how he handles it. That's absolutely going to be the next step for him. Because I think if you just give him drop, like he knows what to do with it, he's going to set you up and get to the side step or the step back, or depending on how far the big plays back, he'll chew up that space. He's an explosive finisher as well. Like some of the contested finishes at the rim were really impressive for him. So he's got it on offense. I think, and if he doesn't have all of it, I think he'll get there. Like I think the scoring is going to be good enough to where easier passing reads will be accessible to him. Like I'm not sure if I see like LeBron, Luka, Chris Paul as like weak side manipulation. And like that's not a fair thing to expect from a rookie anyway. But like I don't know if I see that for him. But I think he's very much going to be deadly enough as like a step back pull-up shooter or just a downhill threat to where he'll draw two and he'll be able to make those reads consistently. Like I think the sky is the limit for him offensively in that regard. Speaking of the offense, I was not pleased with the way that Evan Mobley was used for most of his summer league stint. Averaged a little over 11 points during summer league, shot 35% from the field, 13% from three, grabbed around 8 boards, 3 assists, a steal and a block. Love the defense from him. You could definitely see where the strength limits him sometimes. Cavs Rockets was a game in where he failed on some post-ups and then also got bullied a little bit on some post-ups on the other end. So I think strength is obviously going to be something that he's going to have to improve on moving forward. NBA strength and conditioning program will help him in that regard. Offensively, like it just feels like you saw 2 Evan Mobleys. Like when they dumped it down to him on the block, he did not look comfortable. Again, just doesn't have the strength to consistently move guys, doesn't have the strength to consistently set up shop and establish deep positioning. The other part of the coin is if he did get into a situation where it's like a transition look or just a random flash from the corner to the middle, Cleveland also didn't have the ball handlers necessarily to feed him the way he needs to be fed. So he, on one hand, was not physically equipped to do quote unquote big man things, but he also couldn't really be set up that well either. But once they gave him the ball in space, gave him high post looks, gave him face up looks, different Evan Mobley, pull up jumpers, knock down some threes. Again, didn't shoot well from 3 overall, but the threes he did make, there was some self creation flashes there. The face ups could get to the floater, can get to these jump hooks after taking a couple of dribbles. And then the passing is just there. Can hit cutters, can make kickouts on the move, which is not a thing that a lot of big men can do consistently. He already has that. So I think as long as Cleveland, as we shift into like preseason basketball and the regular season basketball, as long as Cleveland uses him more so as like a high post hub and utilizes that passing, I think that's the pathway to positive impact offensively for Evan Mobley.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned the usage of Mobley. It felt like they were trying to keep him spaced to a degree to see what that looked like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they probably could have made a left turn at some point and maybe highlighted some of the things we know he can do. But it felt like a lot of the purpose was, hey, we're probably going to play these 2 together. Let's let him get some of these reps. Because there's a lot of times he was just spaced in the corner, hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
But they also did run design sets for him to get post-ups. They did give him some of those elbow touches, pick and roll switch. Now he has a mismatch face up. So that was interesting to see. I thought he was pretty comfortable on the perimeter. As far as, like you mentioned, face up, getting to his jumper. Had great confidence there. The strength, as you mentioned, is going to be something to watch, but I thought he did okay for himself in certain scenarios. The interesting part for me was probably the defense. I liked his activity. I liked his instincts. What's going to be interesting if he plays kind of that forward role, which he kind of did during the summer league, is what does he do as his man is spaced? How does he handle that change, that shift?
Mm-hmm.
Can he make the rotations? Can he make the right reads? Can he make the closeouts? Or is he going to be susceptible to backdoor cuts?
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be, comfortable enough on that end of the floor doing that consistently? That is what I think will be a key thing that I will watch as preseason comes, the regular season comes. If they're going to try and make that experiment work, he's going to have to be able to play that spot. And I thought he did show some good instinct, especially perimeter defense wise. I thought when he was able to switch onto a guard, he held his own as far as keeping the ball in front, moved his feet pretty well. If he did get beat, he had good recovery skills. So I don't want to say it was. I don't like comparing, but it reminded me a little bit of what Nick Claxton was able to do at times, as far as, hey, I'm going to keep the ball in front. If you beat me, I'm still going to get to it. But again, it's just going to be him getting more reps as far as I'm just standing here on this possession. So a couple times this guy was in the corner. He's up the floor already. It's like, you're about to give up a back cut, my guy. You might want to tighten that up. So,
Right.
but ultimately, I was impressed. I think, again, Cleveland just went the non-traditional route and said, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Let's see what it looks like and see what we get out of it.
Understandable. 4th pick, Scottie Barnes in Toronto, 15.5 points, 41, 27, 74 shooting splits, shade under 7 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks. What were your takeaways from Mr. Barnes?
I liked his aggression, honestly. It kind of jumped off the page for me. off the bounce. Just I'm not afraid to go and try and go get a bucket, drive. I'm not afraid to get to a spin, try and get into a little bit of mid range. A lot of times they ran him, I don't kind of at the pseudo four and let him do fake handoffs and turn the corner and attack. I love those. I just like the versatility he displayed as far as being able to guard multiple positions, being able to do different things offensively, the activity on the defensive end, getting in the passing lanes, pressuring the ball. I just think he fits with what Toronto is trying to do, and it makes a lot of sense why they went ahead and grabbed him because I feel like he can do so much, which is I don't want to say he's a prototypical Nick Nurse player, but he's definitely of that mold and someone I think he can get the most of because of his ability to drive, post, finish, get after you on the other end. So I liked watching Scottie Barnes play. I could generally say that I enjoyed watching him play. I turned the Raptors on just to watch him most times. It's fun stuff. But yeah, just the windows he could operate in. I wasn't fully aware of those. It just he felt like he had more polish on that end than most had given him credit for.
I'm glad that he was more like I think the offense is probably what impressed me most. I would say first, the defense was better than the offense. Like he's very much a multi-positional defender. Like they put him on point guards on purpose in some of the games that the Raptors played. And Toronto also switched a lot. They also played some zone. And Scottie operated in a multitude of roles and didn't look particularly out of place in any of them. The offense is where I came away feeling better about him. Like the shot is the major question for him, and he didn't shoot well from three. He was willing to put them up, which is half the battle. The general aggression that we saw, I think he averaged a little bit over 12 shot attempts per game. They have second on the team behind Malachi Flynn. Like the fact that he was getting shots up is encouraging. But just watching him operate off the ball was fun to me. Like you mentioned, like the fake handoffs and stuff when he did have the ball, but I appreciate he didn't stop moving. Like he has a real understanding of floor balance and staying within the ball handlers, like passing vision and things like that. Like he'll set a screen, roll to the basket, chill in the dunker spot, flow to the corner, lift to the wing on a drive, go back to the corner just to make sure he's in the line of sight. He'll cut from the corner. Like he understood where he needed to be and where he needed to be to maximize space for the guys around him. And I think that's smart for him. And as he adds more to his scoring package, I don't think he's going to get like primary initiator reps once the regular season starts. So it is important for him to improve the jumper so he can knock down shots from the corner, kind of spot up in that regard, but also be able to create for himself off the ball, like make those random cuts, make those random relocations, set some random screens on the weak side, and generate good looks for yourself and others in that way. And the fact that he already seems to have a keen understanding of spacing and just making himself a threat or making others a threat without having the ball in his hands, like I think that's encouraging for him. If the Raptors do have confidence in fixing the shot, and if he gets there, then he has everything else. Like he is a good passer. Like he's a good passer, good decision making, not just a good decision maker, but one that makes timely decisions. He's not a slow processor at all. I do think he overpassed sometimes in some situations. He generates some 2-on-1s. You can tell he's trying to force feed a guy in the dunker spot or making the kick out, making those premeditated reads. Those won't work in the NBA because NBA defenders they're smarter, they're more athletic. But he sees the game well. He feels the game. Like I am encouraged for him to be that young and already have that kind of feel about him is impressive to me.
I'm with you. What about the guy everyone thought they were going to take?
Jalen Suggs. Summer league stint was cut short due to injury, but 15 points, 6 boards, couple of assists. Low assist totals for just about everyone in the top 5. But a lot of missed shots this summer league, so you don't put too much stock into those. But anyway, 15 points, 6 boards, couple of assists, couple of steals, and a block for him. Jalen Suggs was fun for me because he just plays with this power that I wasn't expecting from him. And that could very much be ignorance on my part for not watching him a ton at Gonzaga. But like he's just a powerful driver, can get to the paint, makes guys feel him. And then defensively, like getting into guys' chest, had some nice shot blocking flashes, some weak side blocks. There was I can't remember who the opponent was, but it was a close game. He gets a clutch block at the end of the game. Like, just made timely shots, made timely plays on the defensive end. Smart dude, made nice passes. Orlando has one in Jalen Suggs. I will say that. The challenge for them is figuring out how they're going to play all these guards that they have. Because you have Suggs, you have Cole Anthony, who was a little bit shaky in Vegas, to be kind, but I will leave that there. But you have Suggs, you have Cole Anthony, you have Markelle Fultz coming back. You just traded for RJ Hampton. It's a lot of reps. And so I'm curious to see how that gets doled out. But as far as Suggs as a prospect, like, he showed what he needed to. And even more importantly, not only did he shoot pretty well from three on solid volume, like, he was knocking down shots off the dribble, flowing into threes against under coverage, flowing into pull-ups against drop. If that comfort level's there, that's going to unlock the driving game. He's already a very good athlete, the guy that can finish well, can make kickouts if teams rotate on those drives. So, like, if the pull-up complements that, we're looking at a very good offensive point guard.
Yeah, I liked what Jalen Suggs did. I just felt like he had an impact. You know, if the world hadn't had that basketball player versus hooper debate, I probably would have used one of those two words, but I'm not touching those for at least 2 to 3 months. But he just had an impact when he was out there. He was just making plays. Felt like he was always doing something when he was in the game. Defensively, I liked the activity. I think sometimes it may have hurt him a little bit. He got caught by a couple spin moves, but he was active. He was making the right plays, getting steals. I think offensively, as you mentioned, just adding value as far as making drives, seeing the defense help, kicking it right away. Like, he's a very willing passer, throw heads on fast breaks. The shot may not have fallen to the degree he was looking for, but he took the looks he needed to. I just thought he played pretty well, made things happen, and that's important. You know, but I think it was just a weird summer league for all three of those guys you mentioned, just because they were trying to figure out the fit. And I like all three of them, but it felt like all three of them were, I don't want to say passive, but maybe holding back because they were having to alternate in ways that were different. You know, it's not like they were being used together. It was just kind of almost your turn, my turn type deal. So it never really felt like any of them really got in that true rhythm. Like, they had flashes, but it never felt like, hey, I'm about to take over the game type deal. So, but yeah, as you mentioned, Jalen Suggs as a prospect is 2 thumbs up. That's a guy who's going to have an impact as far as the regular season goes, in my eyes.
Here we go. So, outside of the top 5, who were some of the rookies that you enjoyed watching during Summer League?
I loved what Kuminga did. I know he was captive to the Summer League staple of more field goal attempts than points sometimes, but I was impressed by his drives. I was impressed by his patience. I was impressed by how he attacked space, initiated contact on some of those drives. Like, he had some big boy drives. And then defensively, it wasn't perfect, but he did show the effort as far as trying to pressure the ball. I mean, there's some things to work on, obviously, as a young player, but there's a base there. You know, I really want to see how he grows off ball offensively, especially in Golden State with what they like to do, what they try and run. I think defenders were able to push him off cuts in Summer League, which can't necessarily have happen because it throws the rhythm off. And then defensively, he's going to have to learn to stay more solid, avoid the backdoor cuts, make sure he knows where his man is. But I liked what I saw from him. Josh Christopher, you already mentioned him. He was really fun. Cam Thomas, I believe you mentioned him too, but his ability to score at multiple levels, extremely fun to watch. So yeah, good time. Summer League was pretty fun. And then shout out to Max Strus. I know it's the rookie part, but he was good.
We'll get there. But no, that's a solid list. I'm glad you're pulling from Houston. Not too many bad things to say about Houston during this Summer League run, honestly. If there's a rookie I have to start with, I have to stay on brand here. Jalen Johnson was good. Jalen Johnson was really good. Got downhill, shot the ball well. Passing was again, there was some of the potential assist thing for him, which summer league shooters just aren't very good. So he made some reason the shots didn't fall. So the assist total was low for him. But I feel like, I don't know how much of this is just like confirmation bias because I'm rooting for him, but like it feels like people kind of overthought it with Jalen Johnson a little bit. And I think that was further proved with how well he played during the summer. I will say defensively, he got lost sometimes. He kind of floated in pick and roll coverage and he kind of floated off ball. That has to be tightened up. I could definitely, if that isn't tightened up, I could see Nate McMillan being like, all right, nah, we got enough wings. You're good. But like he obviously has the physical tools to be there. Like there were some play, like the numbers were done. I mean, he averaged still in the block, so he can make those kind of event creation plays. He just has to be locked in with like the team defense stuff, the rotations, and being timely with that. So I want to see more of that. But offensively, just a guy that can operate on or off the ball, can run some pick and rolls, can be on the other end of that. Like watching him and Sharif Cooper operating double drag was like nirvana for me. It would have been nice if they had like another shooter to operate in that. But we'll see what that looks like with the regular roster. But Jalen was fun. Sharif Cooper was also fun. Shot well from three to begin summer league, kind of faded towards the end of it. Shot 33% for three on decent volume, but the passing flashes for me with Sharif. Again, they did in fact try to double drag teams to death. They did empty corner teams to death, and pocket passes, skips, live dribble skips, lead bounce passes, wraparounds. Like he got to the rim, he made passes. He turned the ball over a lot too, but you saw it all. And like if the shooting form does seem a little bit cleaner than it did in college from what I've seen. So like if the three ball gets there, and his version of getting there, like honestly, if it's league average or slightly below, just enough to make teams think about it, then he's going to get to the rim. And if he can get to the rim, he's going to make kickouts. Like the pass is going to shine for him. So like I'm still pretty high on Sharif Cooper. I understand with like the shot and size concerns why he slid to the second round. Middle of the second round, I'm just kind of like, no. Like he's very much like a late first guy for me. And he played well. Chris Duarte in Indiana was all over the place on both ends of the floor. 2.5 steals, nearly 2 blocks per game, which is not something I expected. And like those stats don't tell the full story, of course, but like he played the passing lanes very well. He rotated well defensively, whether he's the low man, whether he's helping at the nail. Like he just knew where to be defensively. Offensively, shot the leather off the ball. Pull-ups were there, made solid passing reads. Indiana's another team that just has a bunch of solid players. So I wonder how the rotation is going to shake out, particularly in the guard room. But like he made a strong case to be an immediate like 18, 22, 24 minute per game guy to me. And then Trey Murphy III is my last guy I wanted to highlight out in New Orleans. Another guy that shot extremely well, was active defensively. New Orleans going to have some fun with their wing room. Like just watching him, and we'll get there later, but like Najee Marshall, guy that kind of broke out towards the second half of the season for New Orleans, one of the few guys on the roster that could actually play some defense, but that's a whole other thing. But like watching those two guys on the court together was fun. New Orleans was a sneaky team for me to watch during summer league. Trey Murphy has a funky shooting form. I think that's really what I like the most about him, just an aesthetic thing. Like he has kind of this flinger from the ear type deal. It's like half Matt Bonner, half insert player with a high release point here. But he gets the shot up, shoots an easy ball. Like I want to see him more off movement, because a lot of the shots that he did make from the perimeter were very much spot ups or relocating and then spotting up. Like I want to see him come off some pin downs, or for New Orleans to run some kind of screening action just to see what the shot prep looks like there. Because like the footwork is good from what I've seen. Just want to see like what those movement skills look like. Because if you can combine that with the rim pressure from Brandon Ingram, the rim pressure from Zion, like I think there's going to be avenues for him to succeed pretty early. But I enjoyed watching him.
I'm not shocked that you use this to pump 2 Atlanta Hawks players. Just gonna throw that out there. The hashtag is Mr. AVO.
They were good. I don't know.
No, jokes aside, I did like Jalen Johnson. I just thought he had more patience, more control, brought more to the table, was more comfortable with the space in the league. So we'll see how that continues to grow.
Here we go. And on the other side, were there any rookies that you wish you saw a little bit more from?
No.
Fair enough. I will take over from here then. I am still trying to understand the Josh Primo pick for San Antonio.
Killing the Spurs for a second straight episode.
Jesus, that contract for Mr. Anyway, I'm still trying to understand the Josh Primo pick. I will say I like how easily he flowed into pull-ups. They have to fall, which I feel like is a lot about. But I mean, 31% for three on, I believe, 8 attempts per game. Like the percentage just doesn't tell the full story there. Like he took a lot of tough looks, and the actual pure spot-up attempts were fine. There were some ugly misses in his bag when a lot of those shots were either lightly or not contested. So that kind of worries me. But I see the outline of why they like him. The athleticism's there. He does have he has a solid handle. Not an elite one by any stretch, but has a solid handle, has some athleticism, and you factor in the pull-up shooting. So I can see the outline of the type of guy that they think he can be. And he's very young. So obviously not going to write him off over a poor summer league shot outing. But yeah, we'll see with Josh Primo. I wanted to see more of Josh Giddey because we saw 5 minutes of him. Like summer league kicks off with Thunder Pistons. They're going to get Cade versus Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey twists the ankle 5 minutes in, and we don't see him for the rest of Vegas. So that kind of stinks. And then a pair of Washington guys, Corey Kispert and Isaiah Todd. Isaiah Todd got the shots up, buddy. He got the shots up, and they did not fall. He got them up. It would I'll just leave it there. Isaiah Todd got the shots up. And for Corey Kispert, for the calling card to be shooting for him, just did not shoot well. Again, not the end of the world. It's just Vegas, short sample size, but like it would have been nice to see the calling card shine through a little bit more than it did. So that was just kind of it on that regard. We can wrap this segment up looking at some second year or later guys that impressed. We talked about the Warriors a little bit earlier. Gary Payton II has no business being a summer league, bro. He bullied everyone. Like he's already one of the best on-ball defenders, one of the best point of attack defenders in the league already. So him in a summer league setting is just not fair for a bunch of like undrafted guys or just rookies trying to run summer league offense. That's not cool at all. Omer Yurtseven in Miami, 20 and 10 guy, the 3-point percentage dipped towards the end of it. Like he shot well in, I want to say the Sacramento Summer League, and then that carried over to the beginning of Vegas, fell off. I don't know how I feel about his shot yet. Like he's very much comfortable operating as a roller and as a pop guy in pick and roll. The release is slow, but it's also high. So I'm not sure how much contests are actually going to bother him. So if he is a legitimate stretch threat, then that will give Miami an interesting dynamic off the bench. And the other guy I wanted to highlight was Najee Marshall. Touched on him a little bit earlier. Came out the second half of the season for New Orleans last year, just making timely plays, like knowing how to move off ball, timely cuts, knock down some shots, some secondary ball handling reps during the second half of the season. A lot of that continued during the Vegas stint. Got some on-ball reps, running some pick and rolls, shot 40% from three on moderate volume this time, and the defense was still there. So like I think he very much carved out a role for him next season. Well, heading into this season, I think he's very much going to be in that wing rotation. Again, I don't need to highlight how much New Orleans needs quality defenders on the floor around their 2 stars. And so another positive showing from Najee Marshall should go a long way for him being one of the guys that gets called on to help fill that void.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always love seeing the roster guys and their mindset going into summer league and the responsibility that teams are placing on them, obviously leadership-wise, but putting them in a different role, putting them in a different space. For example, look at Desmond Bain. Desmond Bain.
Oh, there it is.
Got something caught my throat. he was asked to do more on ball, which is a good step for his growth. Probably wouldn't be asked to do that as much with the main roster, but you want to see how he handles that responsibility. But he's also a guy who's shooting can pop at summer league, but some of the other things he doesn't always pop. So you never know what you're going to get. Like Patrick Williams, for example, got a whole lot of responsibility for the Bulls, and you probably could view it view it as a success or view it as a mixed bag. But I appreciated him attacking that opportunity and growing with it. My other favorite part is watching those kind of guys graduate from summer league fairly quickly. Like I didn't even do that on purpose.
See, now you know how I feel. Now you know how I feel about DeMarcus Smart putting earlier. I was like, oh, this is smart. And I was like, oh, wait.
No, Emmanuel quickly. It was very clear that hey, he doesn't need to be here very much longer. Same thing for Maxey. I thought it was very clear he didn't need to be there that much longer.
Yeah.
Desmond Bain also was out of there pretty quick. So that's always my favorite part is seeing those guys take that leap. And you go ahead and sit down. Good job. We'll figure the rest out.
We saw what we needed to see.
Yeah. I mean, Peyton Pritchard looked like he was on his way until Davion Mitchell decided to live up to his nickname. But yeah, I'll go real quick with a guy that I wanted to see a little bit more out of, and that was Obi Toppin. Not that he didn't perform, just that it kind of felt like that's what he does, which pops a little bit more at Summer League at times. So he had good performances, but it still feels like he's in between right now. So I don't know if they got the growth they were looking for, because the area of opportunity is still developing that in between game. You know, it felt like he was relying on physicality, and still having issues with the switches that impacted his roles. So those are my 2 cents.
Okay. And the second year guys for me, I would have liked to have seen more from Killian Hayes. Like it's wow.
Hayes slander? This is like a whole new pod. This man this man went to Vegas, did a class, made all these autographs, bought Madden 22, and he's like a whole new man.
I don't know if that's true. No, like I would have liked to have seen more from Killian Hayes. Like outside of the Houston game where there were some paint touches, he still largely couldn't get to the rim consistently, didn't shoot it particularly well. We'll just have to see. Again, he's young. Like he didn't really have a rookie season because it was cut short before he really had a chance to do anything and like the pandemic stuff. So he didn't really have a summer league or an offseason anyway. So like it's just he's playing a lot of catch up. So again, like this is not me saying Killian Hayes is a bust, he's done anything like that. It's just like, would have liked to have seen more from you. But we'll see. Teo Maladon, shade under 10 points per game if we're doing summer league stats. Shot 36% from 3 on solid volume. A lot of those were pull-ups. But brother, you're a second-year guy. It's summer league, and like the top 6 pick got hurt 5 minutes in. Why are you averaging 9 shots a game? Please take shots. Please be aggressive. Like this is literally the time for you to turn your shot tendency rating up to like 85 and just do stuff. You can go back to making the right play and spacing later. Like this is the time for you to take the reins. Like please be aggressive. I've been yelling about Teo Maladon being more aggressive for I don't know how many pods it is at this point, but please take shots. Like summer league is the avenue to do so. And the last guy is Casey Okpala. Like I feel like it would have been nice for him to do more on offense. And he looked very uncomfortable with the ball in his hands. And I just don't understand why at this stage. Like, get to the rim, brother. 2 free throw attempts per game is not it. Like, he ended up shooting 36% from 3 in Vegas, but that's largely because he went, I think, 4 or 5 from 3 in the last Heat game, which drastically raised the percentage there. Was not a good showing offensively there. And you would think with him being kind of a summer league vet at this point, or being a veteran heading into summer league, I should say, because he didn't get to play summer league last year. So there's some of that as well. But like, it would have been nice to see him take the reins a little bit more, get to the rim a little bit more. At bare minimum, get to the rim more. Like that should have been more of an emphasis for him. So a little bit disappointed in my guy KZ Okpala. Would have been nice to see more. Go ahead.
This is like a different universe we're in right now.
This is very dramatic.
I'm stunned. This man has defended KZ Okpala tooth and nail for the last 43 episodes of this podcast. And one trip to Vegas and it's a wrap.
It's okay. Let's be clear. It is not a rep. I still very much believe in KZ Okpala, but like I also can be honest about KZ. Like I would like to see more. It's true that I can want more opportunity for him, and then also see him flounder an opportunity and be like, hey, do more. Like one doesn't cancel out the other. I want to see better. I still believe in him. Seems pretty straightforward to me.
KZ Okpala.
Okay.
I'm kidding. He's got the talent. I just like to see a little bit more aggression from him as well.
Are you sure you don't have any more KZ slander you want to throw in there? Or how?
Nah, it's getting too much like people actually think I don't like KZ Okpala, so I got to chill out for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we are running long, so we're going to do just a few mailbag questions, and we will roll some of these over to the next pod. First question comes from friend of the pod, former guest of the pod, PD Webb. Since we're on the summer league theme, he says, what insights can evaluators glean from a setting like summer league?
For me, the little things. It's all about the little things. Obviously, demeanor, activity, leadership, those kind of things, body language. How do you respond to different scenarios? Not getting a foul call. Those things help. As far as just pure on-court play, it's what can translate to what we try and do, from a team perspective. What is this something that is just you getting a bucket because it's summer league, or you creating a shot out of nowhere, or is this something that's sustainable? Is this something you can do when everyone's in the building? Those kind of things. Defensively, are you making the right reads? Are you making the right rotations? Are you consistent on that end? So it's kind of, for me, a summer league is always a more wide picture view than cutting and breaking down everything as make or break. There's going to be mistakes. You have to live with them. There's going to be sloppy play. You have to live with it. But you got to kind of sift through that and get the larger picture, paint that picture. Hey, how are we doing overall defensively? Is he being aggressive all the time, or is it just when we're up, or when he's scoring, when he's playing, those kind of things? So for me, it's just taking a wider lens, focusing on the little things, and seeing if there's a buildup. Like for me, that's always the fun. Is seeing the difference between the first game, maybe the third or fourth game. Are you trending upwards? The mistakes you made in the first game, have they changed? Have you added to your attack based on what defenses have thrown at you, based on what we're trying to exploit? So you want to see growth. And if you see growth, hey, you check out the boxes. Hey, we did a good job. You never really want to go backwards in summer league. That's always the toughest part, where you start strong, you get your mindset, you get punched in the mouth, and now you fall apart. That's no good. So that's my rant on what you look at. Hopefully I lived up to PD Webb's question, because it was a fun one. I like that question.
There we go. I think you lived up to that question. I would say, I think it depends on like who you're evaluating in a certain way. I think zooming out, I think the off-ball stuff matters a little bit more. Just, it's a cliche thing to say, but like, who knows how to play basketball? That's part of why like Scottie Barnes in particular stood out to me among like the top 5, because you knew the shot was an issue, but like just the way that he rotated defensively, and also just, again, never just the understanding of space spacing and how to make himself available, either with cuts or just relocations around the perimeter or just random screens. Like that kind of stuff is just, you're not getting drilled. You're not getting coaching for that. You're not getting drilled into that. Like the Raptors' actual offense was not being run by the Summer League Raptors. So that's very much a, hey, we're just out here hooping. I know this is what I'm supposed to do because this is what good basketball players do. And so for him to be able to do that in that kind of a loose setting without much structure, I think that translates. And like for your high level prospects like that, it's that stuff. And also like, are there high level flashes? What can you do? And so those are the kind of things that I would be looking for. Again, like it matters less to me if a guy shoots like Cade shot 50% from three on, I think the official number is 8.7 attempts from three. Like the specific numbers don't matter nearly at all in Summer League for me. It's okay, Cade shot well from three. How did he get those looks? Because him knocking down half his threes, spotting up on the wing or spotting up in the corner means a lot less to me than like the play against Jalen Green he had, for example, where he sets him up with a crossover, goes behind his back, and he's pulling up and pick and roll, or just flying off movement and stuff like that. Like those kind of flashes, the variety of ways that he got his shots, the how matters. And that's the kind of things I'm looking for in like a Summer League setting.
No, I like that. Just to build on it with what you mentioned as far as who you're evaluating, there's a difference between, your non-roster guys and your roster guys, especially someone who was on quote unquote your main team. Mm-hmm. You're not looking for the same thing. If you're looking at a guy like Quickly, it's not just that he scored, it was also the playmaking, how he created. Mm-hmm. That's adding to what we already know you can do. So if we know you can bring XYZ to the table, we're hoping to see flashes of other letters, as opposed to you just having a strong outing of what we already know you can do. That's great. 2 thumbs up. Hopefully that builds your confidence, but it's all about growth.
Makes sense. All right. The next question is going to come from our good friend Dylan, who asks, which player from the Spurs young core has the highest potential and why? He thinks it's Devin Vassell, but he feels like a bit of a toss-up. Steve, who would you say has the highest potential among the Spurs young core?
Keldon Johnson. To me, Keldon Johnson's, because of the way that he could impact the game on both ends of the floor. Defensively, we know what he brings to the table. Offensively, we know he likes to drive. As he continues to grow, continues to get reps, continues to improve shooting-wise, I think you have someone who can really make an impact. So Keldon Johnson would be my pick.
I think the top three is clear in whatever order you want to put them in. Like, I think Vassell is up there. I think Keldon Johnson is up there. And I also think DeJounte Murray is up there. Like, I guess my first question would just kind of be like, what is the age cutoff in terms of young core? Because, like,
I don't count DeJounte.
You don't count DeJounte? Okay.
I mean, if we do, then I probably switch to him just because of that defense, but I don't count him.
Okay, well, if we're not counting him, then it comes down to Vassell versus Keldon Johnson. And
actually, no. Let's make it more fun. You count DeJounte.
Counting DeJounte, counting DeJounte is going to be my pick, mostly because he started knocking down pull-up middies last year. And I think you already know he can get to the rim. Like, the finishing is sub-elite, but he is a solid finisher and can get to the rim with that kind of size and that kind of athleticism. And you know what he brings as a defender. Like, he's one of the best on-ball defenders in the world. And so that's already your pathway to high impact. Like, you get to the rim, can draw pressure, can make basic kickouts. On the other end, you can lock up at the point of attack. Makes you, especially for a team like the Spurs that plays a lot of drop with Jakob Poeltl, like, you got DeJounte Murray out there, it makes the job easier for everyone. But if it's not Murray, I'll probably do go Vassell over Keldon Johnson. Johnson's obviously a better player right now. But, like, not only can Vassell shoot, he can shoot off movement. And with the Spurs feeding him more on-ball reps during Summer League, you saw, like, legit pick-and-roll flashes from him. And so, like, that already gives you the pathway of, okay, he can operate second side with the shooting that he provides. And then if there's any more upside there to where he can start bringing the ball up and doing some stuff, and he has that jumper, which he can get to off movement. The shot prep is very good, can get into pull-ups and things like that. There are just a lot of ways you can use him. And for Keldon, we know he can get to the rim. We know he can spot up. He doesn't create for others. And he doesn't have like a ton of wiggle either. So like even with the driving being as effective as it is, like he doesn't get to the line a ton. He's also not like, he's not breaking down dudes and forcing rotations. He's getting an inside shoulder and then launching into someone. And like he's good at it, but I'm not sure what the team-wide upside is for that, if that makes sense. And I think Vassell, just with how diverse his skill set is or could be, which is why the Spurs gave him more on-ball reps during the summer. Like, I think there are more ways for him to not only generate good stuff for himself, but also do that for others. Like, he can bend defenses in more ways than Keldon can. And I think that's where the upside comes in at for him.
Draymond Green disagrees with you.
Of course he does. That's fine. I will let Draymond have it. This question comes from Myron. He says, who is the odd man out of the Hawks wing rotation, and why shouldn't they be in the Ben Simmons conversation? Do you want me to?
Who would be the odd man out? I mean, Bogey, Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish. That seems like the rotation, right?
Yeah, like I guess my first question is like, are we considering Jalen Johnson a wing or a forward?
He's the odd man out.
Yeah, like that's my first answer, especially if like the defense doesn't come around in year one. Like he can very much end up being slow played in that rotation by Nate McMillan. But if we're looking at just the wings, like I think the odd man out is probably Cam Reddish, just because he hasn't had a real shot to get his feet under him in Atlanta. Like, again, the rookie year, it was basically a tale of two halves for him, then injury. Last year, it was injury. And, you know, he's been, even heading into this offseason, like he has been the name that's been dangled for the Hawks looking to trade up or looking to trade into another trade and get another first-round pick. He's the guy's been dangled if you're going to make some kind of wing move. And I do think if you're going to consolidate guys and try to make a swing for something, like I think Cam Reddish is probably going to be the guy you start with. Like he just hasn't, I don't think he hasn't built up enough equity there. I don't think. Not saying that he can't be good enough to be untouchable, but I'm saying like Hunter was, not only was Hunter drafted higher, he's played more, he's better right now. And like, so there's
Cam Reddish has earned himself an opportunity based on what he did against the Bucks. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, this isn't a Cam Reddish isn't a talented thing, but I'm just like Kevin Huerter's been there and is at the end of his rookie contract deal. Like they just got Bogdanovich, and you see how important he is. And again, Hunter was drafted high. Not only was he drafted higher, and not only is he better right now, he's drafted higher, and like they traded up to get him. So like there's more investment there. And so like, you know, and Reddish was technically the extra pick from like the Trae Young Luka deal. So like just looking at it from that standpoint, I think if there's going to be a choice made there in terms of investment, Cam Reddish is last. In terms of like availability, which isn't all his fault. Again, like he's been hurt in both of his seasons to this point. But to that standpoint, like Huerter wins out, Bogdanovich wins out. And I mean, Hunter missed time last year as well. But again, you look at the pick investment and stuff, Hunter has the edge there. So I think within that lens, Reddish probably is the more likely guy to fall out.
The answer is Solomon Hill.
That's I mean, yes, but also come on. You have to be in the rotation to be the odd man out, though.
Wow.
That sounds a lot more mean than I intended it. I'm just saying, like, there's a very clear top four there. And Solomon Hill's like a spot rotation guy. Like, that's fine. Like, he's more there for the locker room than he is for the on-court contribution. That's okay. In the second half of the question, why shouldn't they be in the Ben Simmons conversation? Like, honestly, I would like for them to be. Like, I think we've talked about either here on the timeline, like, I think Atlanta is a consolidation spot for like a Bradley Beal if he becomes available. Like, I would like to see Ben Simmons in Atlanta if he's going to be moved there. Like, I just wonder about what that deal is. Like, is it Collins? And if it's Collins, I guess to start there, like, is it Collins? From a money perspective, it kind of has to be. But like, Tobias Harris, John Collins, Joel Embiid front line is interesting. And I mean, the Hawks do have the wings to put some stuff together if necessary. But I think part of the half-court issues for Ben Simmons, like, we know what the shooting is, and like, you can't pass up dunks. Like, as much as that was very much an egregious one-time thing, I do think that was like a one-time thing. Like, he's not passing up dunks often. But like, part of the half-court issue with Ben Simmons is that he hasn't really had a guard to really unlock him. And there aren't many guards that could unlock him more than Trae Young could. Just with the playmaking, with the pull-up shooting, not just the pull-up shooting, but the deep pull-up shooting. So like, that just seems like a match made in heaven to like hide, to accentuate Ben Simmons' strengths in the half court and also hide some of the weaknesses, because Trae can just get it by himself if necessary. So I mean, if it comes to that, like, I'd like to see Atlanta toss the hat in the ring, because ultimately they're not going to be able to pay everyone they have anyway.
I don't know if I like their consolidation being Ben Simmons. No disrespect to Ben, but you pretty much wreck some of your pick and roll game, because where do you put Ben Simmons? I mean, you unlock a great duo if Ben Simmons is screening for Trae Young, but if Clint Capella is screening for Trae Young, then where does Ben Simmons go?
The dunker spot, yeah.
Which opens up the issues that he already has.
See, I think it would be a little bit different in Atlanta, because I think Trae is just unlike anything he's played with at this point. And also just in terms of being a role man. Again, I am not making a Clint Capella is better than Joel Embiid argument. But I think in terms of being a role man, I do think Clint is a better vertical threat. So I do think there could be a little bit more between that pick and roll duo. There could be a little bit more attention drawn. So maybe Simmons in the dunker spot isn't as destructive in the half court, because you have more attention drawn to the initial action. That would be my counter.
I'm leaving you on your own ledge on this hypothetical.
Again, Joel Embiid is a much better basketball player than Clint Capella. I think in pick and roll, we've had we've had the Joel Embiid as the role man conversation on the pod before.
But it's the same issue. You're going to help off Simmons from the dunker.
Yeah, you probably help a little bit more in that regard. Like, you're going to have to play a little bit higher if Trae's your ball handler, as opposed to George Hill. So that's where I'm just like, again, like, the problem persists. I'm saying I think it's more of a problem in Philly than it would be in Atlanta. I think the spacing's better. You have more of an on-ball threat in Trae.
I would hope they would get more.
Yeah, like, again, like, you aim for Beal or an actual like superstar if he comes available.
I just don't know if Ben Simmons moves the needle for them in that way more than what they are building right now.
That's fair. This question comes from Gabriel. He asks, what WNBA teams would you recommend checking out for those looking to start watching the league?
Storm, Aces, Liberty.
Okay, that seems that seems simple enough. Like, those were going to be the three teams. At the very least, I was going to mention like the Storm and the Liberty. The Aces are my team, and I love them. They also infuriate me with the 3-point thing. So, like, I don't know if they would be my intro team unless you care more about like really getting in with a team and like the personalities of it, because there aren't many, if any, teams more personable than the Aces. So like if you're looking for a fun time and they're also very freaking good, like Vegas is going to do it for you.
Give them a little variety.
No, I feel you. Like the Liberty are fun and upstart. Like Betnijah Laney has been so freaking good this year, bro. Give her some MVP votes.
Hasn't stopped.
It has not stopped. Like I can't even pretend to know what I expected from Betnijah Laney this year. But like she came out the gate firing on all cylinders. Pull-ups, 3 balls, cuts to the basket, making passes. And she starts out hot, and it's like, okay, so she is not only playing extremely well, she is thoroughly outplaying Sabrina Ionescu right now. And she's like the headliner. And then Sabrina Ionescu goes through this ridiculous slump. And Betnijah Laney keeps going. And Betnijah Laney has continued to go. And so now it's just like, okay, can we, what are we giving her awards for? Is it MIP again? Is it MVP, depending on where the Liberty finished in the standings? She's been fun to watch. The Liberty are also a solid start to get. Chicago Sky are fun. Like if you just want the name recognition, like Candace Parker is there. And they also have some very fun personalities as well. Diamond the Shields is hilarious. And then Allie Quickly's there, Courtney Vandersloot's there. So if you want playback and you want shooting, you have that there. So like Chicago Sky have a little bit of everything for you as well. Honestly, just pick a team. The WNBA is fun. We will round this out with 2 questions. From Karina. She asked, do the Connecticut Sun have a solid chance to upset a contender in the playoffs? To which my answer is yes. You got Jonquel Jones, you got a shot.
No, I agree. You got Jonquel Jones playing the way she is with DeWanna Bonner. And you never know if Jasmine Thomas is going to get hot. I wouldn't necessarily love to sign up to play the Sun.
Not doing that. And the last question comes from Mark. He says, can the Chicago Sky make a late season run? What's your confidence level in them right now?
Wait, what'd I do?
What do you mean?
There wasn't a pun there.
No pun.
Oh, okay.
I'm just asking the last question.
The Sky?
Can they make a late season run?
They certainly have the personnel to do it. The only question is, will they have the time to get it right, get in rhythm, and get the wins they need to? They're another team I don't think I'd want to face in the playoffs, but I don't know if they've necessarily showcased the high form many of us expected, just because lineups been in and out. So they got to bounce back quick.
Yeah, like I mean, the second half of the season just started, so like, yes, but like Candace missing so much time has hurt, which is a very obvious thing to say. But like, I don't, such an underwhelming season for the Chicago Sky. And again, a lot of that's out of their control just with injuries. They just haven't had the lineup continuity. There's also just the general weirdness with like the Gabby Williams situation in the offseason. So it's just been, but speaking of weirdness, what the heck has been going on with the Atlanta Dream this year? I will say that for another pod. That's a whole lot of flux for their organization. Anyway, it's been an underwhelming season for Chicago Sky because like they add Candace Parker and it's like, okay, this might be game over. It's going to be them, the Storm, the Aces as kind of your top 3. They're going to all duke it out. It's going to be whatever. And then like Candace has the ridiculous debut, or rather the Sky have the ridiculous debut and Candace plays well in the debut. And then she misses time. They lose a bunch. She comes back, they win. And it's just been a lot of weirdness. So like, I think that would make for a fun postseason if they were able to get healthy, stay healthy, and then make a run. Because like, as you said, like they have the personnel to be a dangerous team. And that is not someone you would want to face in the playoff setting, especially with how the WNBA playoffs are set up. Because they're not going to be like a top seed and get kind of the first round bye and stuff. So get them in like a do or die setting like that, I'd be terrified to be like a 3 or 4 seed or something like that. And then you catch the freaking Chicago Sky riding like a 7-game win streak or something. It's kind of like
salute to Stephanie Dolson just because.
I respect it. It'd be kind of like the play-in the West last year. It's like, hey, congrats, Phoenix. You get the Lakers in the first round. And so you have yourself a solid season in the W, and then your first round opponent, Vander Quiggs and Candace Parker and Diamond DeShields and Stephanie Dolson and James Wade drawing up play. Like, yeah, I wouldn't want any parts of that. Let's prayers up for it. A team that may have to face like a finally healthy Chicago Sky Todd. Anyway, thank you for listening to this episode of the Dunker.
I had one question for you. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know we're running long. Your thoughts? We missed over one of the biggest transactions. Well, actually, Zach Collins' contract looks like there's some non-guarantees in there. So I wonder if that we can touch on that next pod. Which did want to get your thoughts on one of the bigger transactions, bigger signings of the offseason. Udonis Haslem back to the Miami Heat.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Oh my God. If I say what I want to say, I'm going to lose like 75% of the downloads of this podcast. I would rather not do that. Why? Thank you for listening to this episode of The Dunker Spot. If you have not already, please subscribe to us. We are on all podcast streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you get your pods, you can find us. You can find me on Twitter at Nekias NBA. You can find Steve on Twitter at SteveJones20. And with that, we will catch y'all later.
Did Draymond and KD make up just to get mad at the Warriors?